After rebirth, enjoy the cool goddess. He clearly acted in selfless heroism, but was falsely accused of being a murderer by the school beauty's family. After serving 10 years in prison, Cao Kun was reborn on the night that changed his fate. Watching the school beauty's mother being dragged into an alley by three thugs once again, this time, Cao Kun didn't pick up a brick. Instead, he quietly took out his phone and started recording. "Madam, I also want to be a good person, but you're forcing me." Chapter 1. Put down the brick and pick up the phone. I was reborn. And I was reborn 10 years ago, on the day when I did something righteous. In the dim alley, Cao Kun looked at the date and time displayed on his phone, and his fists clenched tightly. 10 years. He dreamed of going back to this day. 10 years ago, when Cao Kun passed by this alley, he happened to meet the mother of school beauty Wang Shanshan, Bai Jing, who was being bullied by three hooligans. School beauty Wang Shanshan was not only Cao Kun's classmate for 3 years in high school, but also the goddess he had pursued for 3 years. Even in order to continue pursuing Wang Shanshan, Cao Kun even specially filled in the same university and major as her in the college entrance examination application not long ago. Seeing that the three hooligans were obviously planning to rape her, Cao Kun didn't think twice at the time, picked up a brick and rushed over. Thanks to his usual exercise, plus his net height of 1.82 meters, although it was a 1-on-3 situation, Cao Kun was not at a disadvantage at all. In fact, after a scuffle, he directly knocked all three thugs to the ground. After subduing the three thugs, Cao Kun originally planned to call the police, but was stopped by Bai Jing. Because she was worried that her reputation would be affected. Although her innocence was not tarnished by the three thugs, if such a thing spread out, the wind direction would be completely uncontrollable. Once it reached the neighbors, it would probably become that Bai Jing had been bullied by the three thugs. Cao Kun put himself in their shoes and thought that it might indeed bring rumors about this to Bai Jing, so he finally did not choose to call the police. However, the next morning, the police came to his door and arrested him directly. It turned out that one of the three thugs was seriously injured in the scuffle last night and died. However, Cao Kun was not worried. Because he had read the popular science of the law in this regard. When stopping the lawbreakers who were raping, kidnapping, and killing, causing casualties to the other party, it does not belong to excessive defense and does not need to bear any legal responsibility. In other words, not only did he not have to bear any responsibility, but he was also a hero. However, he was eventually sentenced to life imprisonment. Because Bai Jing did not admit that she was being raped at the time. Her statement was that the three hooligans were just asking her for directions, but Cao Kun rushed over and started fighting with them like a madman. In this way, a good heroism turned into a murder case under Bai Jing's false accusation. Since then, Cao Kun has been charged with murder and began his 10-year prison life. When he recalled this, a fierce light flashed in Cao Kun's eyes. 10 years, do you know how I lived? Wang Shanshan, Bai Jing, and Wang Yifu, you three wait, I will make you want to live but not to die. At the beginning, Cao Kun thought that framing him was just Bai Jing's personal behavior. It was not until he was imprisoned that he found out by chance that it was not only Bai Jing who framed him for intentional homicide, but also her daughter Wang Shanshan and her husband Wang Yifu. All three of them were involved. Even Wang Shanshan, the goddess whom Cao Kun had pursued for 3 years, was the one who planned and framed him for intentional homicide. So, in the past 10 years, he dreamed of chopping up Bai Jing's family of 3. Of course, he would not really do this. Because it would be too easy for them. As the saying goes, to relieve the hatred in your heart, you have to cut off the enemy with a blunt knife. He had to send Wang Shanshan's family of 3 to destruction bit by bit. Only in this way could he relieve his hatred. Seeing that the time was almost up, Cao Kun looked around and hid behind 2 trash cans not far away. If he remembered correctly, Bai Jing was about to be dragged into the alley by the 3 gangsters. Sure enough. Cao Kun had just hidden behind 2 trash cans for less than 5 minutes when a humming sound accompanied by noisy footsteps rang out. At the end of the alley, 3 thugs were dragging a plump young woman in. It was Bai Jing. Some covered their mouths, some lifted their bodies, some hugged their legs, and the 3 thugs quickly dragged Bai Jing in. Even less than 2 meters away from the trash can where Cao Kun was hiding, he could see it clearly. More than half an hour later, Cao Kun walked out from behind the trash can in the alley. Looking at the video shot on his phone, a wicked smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Aunt Bai, I guess you don't want your husband to see this video, right? After saying that, Cao Kun laughed and walked in the opposite direction of Bai Jing. Half an hour later. In an old residential community, Cao Kun walked out of the bathroom with wet hair. In front of the floor-length mirror, looking at his naked body, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise. What a good age, what a good body. There are no ugly scars on his body. There is no centipede-like sutured wound from the left corner of the eye across the bridge of the nose to the right corner of the mouth. Everything is so beautiful. Finally, after staring at himself in the mirror for nearly a minute, Cao Kun lit a cigarette and sat on the sofa to think. After rebirth, he must take revenge. He would never let Wan Shanshan, a family of 3, go to hell. However, since God has given him a chance to be reborn, he can't just use it for revenge. After all, there are other things in life besides revenge. For example, food, wine, women. During the 10 years of prison life, he lost too much and had too many regrets to make up. So, in this life, in addition to revenge, he also has to enjoy life well. Whether it is food, wine, or women, they all need the same thing: money. So, revenge is important, but making money is equally important. Of course, he didn't think about making money by working. Thanks to his 10 years in prison, he still knew a lot of ways to get rich. However, most of these ways were too wild. Otherwise, those people wouldn't be imprisoned like him. So, he needed to filter them carefully to see if he could pick out a few that were not so wild. Chapter 2: The Golden Secret No One Knows. Time ticked by. Because the span was a whole decade, there was too much information to sift through. By the time Cao Kun finished his first cigarette, he still hadn't come up with a good way to make money. However, he wasn't in a rush. Lighting up his second cigarette, he continued to think. After 10 years in prison, Cao Kun had been through all kinds of rough situations, and his mindset was now as steady as an old dog. Finally, halfway through his second cigarette, Cao Kun's eyes lit up as if he had just had a breakthrough. Right, the batch of gold that Lei Lao-san buried hasn't been discovered yet. Lei Lao-san was a fellow inmate of Cao Kun's, and also serving a life sentence. He was sentenced to life imprisonment because he had robbed 2 jewelry stores and severely injured a store clerk in the process, leaving them paralyzed. If Cao Kun remembered correctly, Lei Lao-san had been in prison for over 2 years by now. But Lei Lao-san's case hadn't been closed when he entered prison. He had hidden the gold he stole, and had never handed it over. In fact, it wasn't until the 3rd year after Cao Kun entered prison that the police finally broke through and discovered the stash. A whopping 54.7 kilograms of gold. Thinking back on this, a grin spread across Cao Kun's face. Normally, at this point, no one else besides Lei Lao-san knew where the gold was hidden. But Cao Kun wasn't in a normal situation. As Lei Lao-san's cellmate for a decade, he knew exactly where the gold was hidden. Because, after the gold was found, during that period, Lei Lao-san had become like a chatterbox, constantly repeating, "I was so stupid, how could I have told them? If I hadn't said where I hid the gold, they never would have found it." Cao Kun had heard those words so many times that he thought his ears were going to develop calluses. He couldn't even forget where the gold was hidden, no matter how hard he tried. "Lei Lao-san, I'll take this gold as payment for the protection I gave you in your past life. If it weren't for me looking after you, you would have been dead long ago." With a wry smile, Cao Kun flicked his cigarette, then pulled out a piece of paper and began scribbling down some notes. He wrote down the time, the location, and the method of making money. Slowly, as time went on, Cao Kun kept adding more and more potential ways to get rich to his list. What started as one idea grew into 2, then 3, and by the end, the entire page was filled. The information he wrote down was complex and varied. There were specific times to buy certain stocks. There were exact moments to invest in particular funds. Even some tips about saving someone at a certain place and time. There were even projects involving high-interest loans. Finally, when he couldn't think of any more ways to make money, Cao Kun put his pen down. Looking at the list in front of him, a satisfied smile crept across his face. These were his capital for enjoying life. Suddenly, his peripheral vision caught something, and his brows furrowed slightly. The establishment of the Yundong economic zone is in 18 days. This seemed like very important information. Cao Kun stared at the message for several seconds, then spoke again with a serious tone. "It seems like I'll need to adjust my plan. The establishment of the Yundong economic zone is an opportunity one absolutely cannot miss. With only 18 days left, I must handle this Yundong economic zone matter, or I'll lose too much. Forget it, let Bai Jing and her family of bastards enjoy a few more days of peace. I'll deal with them after I've handled things in Yundong. Cao Kun had originally planned to take action against Bai Jing's family first, but then realized that the Yundong matter was more urgent. Since that was the case, he decided to take care of the Yundong issue first, and then deal with Bai Jing and her family afterward. Making the decision in his mind, Cao Kun immediately took out his phone and booked a train ticket for tomorrow to Bai Her City. The next morning, in the soft, large bed, Cao Kun stretched lazily. The comfort of the soft mattress, with no fear of being attacked in the night or woken by a prison guard's whistle, made it the best night's sleep he'd had in 10 years. After washing up, Cao Kun went to the living room, first striking a pose, and then moved slowly. It looked like Tai Chi slow movements, but with no connection to Tai Chi at all. This was something Cao Kun had learned from a Taoist priest in prison during his 3rd year. The priestess' name was Yang Ping, and he had been imprisoned for multiple sexual assault cases. Yang Ping had been the Taoist priest of a small temple in Yun province, where he had some followers. Many women came to him for blessings to conceive, as they had difficulty getting pregnant. Yang Ping, using his status as a Taoist priest, would often tell these women that their inability to conceive was due to karmic debt. He claimed that if their karma wasn't cleared, they would never get pregnant. Many women fell for this, and they paid him to perform rituals to cleanse their karma. But in reality, Yang Ping used the guise of these rituals to assault the women. And the worst part was that these women had to pay him huge sums of money, sometimes up to 30,000 or 50,000 yuan at a time. It was absolutely shameless. After 3 years, one of the women reported him to the police, and Yang Ping was arrested and sent to the prison where Cao Kun was held. By that time, Cao Kun had gained a significant status in the prison, considered one of the untouchables, with several subordinates under his control. Yang Ping knew that, as a serious criminal, without protection, he would be severely harmed in prison. So, on his first day there, he immediately sought Cao Kun's protection. The martial arts moves that Cao Kun was practicing now were one of the many benefits Yang Ping had provided in exchange for that protection. Yang Ping claimed it was a set of exercises for improving physical health. At first, Cao Kun thought Yang Ping was just trying to pull a fast one, since he didn't have any other useful skills to offer. But after practicing the moves, Cao Kun was surprised to find that they actually worked. After doing them, his body felt warm, and he felt more relaxed than ever. In fact, since practicing this set of moves, he found his body had grown stronger. He didn't feel the cold in winter or the heat in summer. However, what puzzled Cao Kun was that these moves seemed to only work for him. Others who had learned them, including Yang Ping, saw no benefit at all. When winter came, Yang Ping still shivered like everyone else. And when he got to know the truth, Yang Ping confessed that the moves weren't some great health technique at all. They were simply written in a nameless book he had found in the temple. It was completely useless. Yang Ping even advised Cao Kun not to practice them anymore. Cao Kun just smiled lightly in response, knowing that the techniques worked for him, and didn't care whether they worked for anyone else. So, he kept practicing them for 7 or 8 years. Soon, after finishing the set of movements, Cao Kun slowly exhaled and stopped. His body felt pleasantly warm and comfortable. However, his expression was slightly dissatisfied. This is ridiculous. Why do I keep feeling like this set of moves is incomplete? He had been practicing this set of movements for 7 or 8 years and was extremely familiar with them. But for some reason, Cao Kun always had the feeling that these moves were incomplete, that there was something missing. He couldn't explain why he felt that way, and even when he asked Yang Ping about it, the priest always insisted that these were the complete techniques. After thinking for a moment, Cao Kun shook his head. Forget it, I'll find some time to go to Yun province. Yang Ping might not have learned the full set of techniques. I need to get my hands on that nameless book. Chapter 3, One Slap to Settle It. 9:30 a.m. Carrying a black backpack, Cao Kun boarded the high-speed train to Bai Her City. Perhaps due to it being summer vacation, with many students traveling, the train carriage was almost full with no empty seats. Soon, Cao Kun found his assigned seat. It was a 3-seat row, and his was the window seat at the far end. However, a middle-aged man with a scruffy beard, looking rather fierce, was sitting in his seat. The man was watching videos on his phone while casually spitting sunflower seed shells, with his other foot resting on the adjacent seat. He looked like the type who had zero manners. At the end of the three-seat row, a young woman in a short skirt sat. It was clear that, with such an inconsiderate passenger next to her, the girl seemed uncomfortable, fidgeting awkwardly. Cao Kun walked over to the middle-aged man, smiled, and said, "Hey, you're sitting in my seat." He thought he had made himself clear and was polite enough. However, the middle-aged man just glanced up at him before turning back to his phone, continuing to spit out sunflower seeds without acknowledging him. Ignoring him completely. Cao Kun's smile faltered a little. He chuckled awkwardly and repeated, "Excuse me, you're sitting in my seat. Could you move?" Worried that the man hadn't heard him, Cao Kun raised his voice. As his voice grew louder, other passengers immediately turned their attention toward them. There was a clear sense of dissatisfaction in the air, and it seemed like a potential scene was brewing. The girl in the short skirt looked nervous and seemed like she was about to speak up, possibly to mediate, but ultimately didn't dare. After hearing Cao Kun's second request, the middle-aged man seemed to lose patience. He frowned, put his phone down, and sneered, "What are you yelling about? Can't you see I'm sitting here? Are you blind?" As soon as the man spoke, more passengers turned their heads to look. The girl in the short skirt, now visibly anxious, tugged at Cao Kun's sleeve, subtly signaling him to back down. It was obvious she thought this middle-aged man wasn't someone to be trifled with. There was no need to cause trouble with someone like him. Upon hearing the middle-aged man's words, Cao Kun suddenly smiled. Damn. It had been a long time since someone dared to speak to him like that. If his old prison mates could hear about this, they'd probably laugh at him for the rest of his life. After all, the famous Scar brother was being bullied by a little punk like this. What a joke. Seeing the smile on Cao Kun's face grow wider, the middle-aged man assumed he had intimidated him and rolled his eyes dismissively, going back to his phone. But just as he was about to continue eating sunflower seeds and watching videos, suddenly, a powerful slap landed across his face with a loud smack. Caught completely off guard, the middle-aged man was thrown backward by the force of the slap. His head hit the train wall with a dull thud. In that instant, his face turned bright red and swollen, with 5 distinct finger marks clearly imprinted on his skin. Blood even started dripping from the corner of his mouth, where his lips had split from the blow. The man instinctively cupped his face and turned to look at Cao Kun, only to meet his cold, unblinking gaze. In that moment, the middle-aged man felt as if he had plunged into an ice-cold abyss. He felt his blood run cold. My God! What kind of eyes are these? They were filled with murderous intent, thick with bloodlust and violence. He couldn't imagine what kind of person could possess such a terrifying look. In that instant, his mind made a choice. Surrender. I have to surrender. Because this person, he would really kill me. The man felt as if one of his feet was already stepping on the line of death. If he took another step forward, he was certain it would be his last. Clean up this mess and get out. Cao Kun said, his smile still intact, his tone firm and unwavering. The middle-aged man froze for a second, then quickly sprang up, grabbing the nearby trash and stuffing it into a bag. He practically fled the train carriage. A deathly silence fell over the carriage. The other passengers, who had been watching the scene, were all stunned. The girl in the short skirt stared at Cao Kun, her mouth slightly open, her face full of disbelief. My God! This handsome, sunny young man was actually this violent. This is so manly. I'm in love. If I had a boyfriend like him, I'd feel completely safe. As she thought about this, stars seemed to sparkle in the girl's eyes. Cao Kun, however, paid no attention to the gazes of the people around him. He simply walked over to his seat and sat down, closing his eyes as though nothing had happened. The journey was still quite long, as they wouldn't arrive in Bihar city until 4:30 p.m. Plus, he had other matters to attend to that evening, so he needed to rest and conserve his energy. However, just as he closed his eyes, he noticed some movement beside him. Cao Kun opened his eyes and saw a well-mannered young man nervously sit down in the middle seat between him and the girl in the short skirt. He recognized this young man. He had been standing next to the girl earlier. Seeing Cao Kun open his eyes, the young man quickly spoke up, this is my seat. We're together, we have tickets. He gestured toward the girl beside him. Oh, they are together. Cao Kun nodded and didn't say anything further. He closed his eyes again. The young man let out a sigh of relief, took out a bag of snacks from his bag, and eagerly handed them to the girl in the short skirt. "Here, these are your favorite snacks. Go ahead and eat." However, for some reason, the girl in the short skirt felt a wave of irritation at the sight of the snacks. "Eat, eat, eat, can't you do anything else? When you saw someone sitting in your seat, you just stood there and didn't dare to speak up. Are you even a man? Look at others. Look at how others handle things. Can't you have some backbone, be more manly?" The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. The girl suddenly pushed the snacks away. "Eat what? I'm tired. I'm going to sleep." With that, she closed her eyes. The young man gave a shy smile and could only shove the snacks back into his bag. 4:30 p.m. At Bihar City's train station, Cao Kun, carrying his backpack, walked out with the crowd. Since it was still early, he first took a taxi around the city south outer ring road, seemingly confirming something. After completing the loop, he finally got off in the city center. By now, it was already 7 p.m. Just as Cao Kun was about to look for somewhere to eat, a surprised female voice suddenly rang out. "Hey, what a coincidence! We meet again." Chapter 4, What a Virtuous and Good Daughter-in-Law. Hearing the female voice coming from behind, Cao Kun subconsciously turned his head to look over. As a result, he saw the girl in the short skirt on the train greeting him with a smile. Cao Kun didn't expect to meet a girl again. He was stunned and smiled back. "Hi, it's you, what a coincidence." "Yeah, what a coincidence." The girl came to Cao Kun with a smile. "Why, are you alone?" "Right." Cao Kun smiled and nodded. "What about you? Why isn't your boyfriend with you?" The girl curled her lips and said, "I'm angry. I don't want to be with him today." Cao Kun smiled and didn't respond. "By the way, have you eaten?" the girl continued. "Not yet." Cao Kun said, "I'm just about to go, how about you?" "I haven't eaten either." The girl said happily, "In that case, let's eat together." "Peace." Cao Kun looked the girl up and down. In terms of appearance alone, the girl's appearance is above average, so I'd give her 80 points. However, her figure is good, with a thin waist, a perky butt, and long legs, which would get her a score of 90 at least. If her breasts could be bigger, her score would go up further, but unfortunately, they are barely a B cup. Okay. Cao Kun only thought about it for a moment before agreeing. "It's just right, we can have a meal together and chat to relieve boredom." Hearing this, the girl smiled even more happily. "By the way, I heard there is a restaurant nearby that serves good food, do you want to try it?" "Sure, you lead the way." Time flies, and it is already 9 o'clock in the evening. In the restaurant, at a window seat, Cao Kun put down his chopsticks contentedly. "I have to say, it's really delicious." Of course, to be precise, everything he eats tastes delicious now. After all, his mouth had been tortured by prison meals for 10 years. Therefore, as long as it is not some kind of weird dish, he thinks it tastes good. And through this meal, he also learned some information about the girl in front of him. Yundong, a sophomore student, took advantage of the holiday to travel with her boyfriend. Currently, the boyfriend has been dumped and his whereabouts are unknown. Is it delicious? Yundong looked at Cao Kun with a smile on her face and was very happy to see how satisfied he was with his meal. Cao Kun nodded and gave a thumbs up. "It's really delicious. I haven't eaten such delicious food in at least 10 years. What Cao Kun said was true, but when Yundong heard it, she burst out laughing. "You haven't had such delicious food in 10 years, so your life must be too hard. By the way, what are you going to do next?" "What's next?" "The next step is to wait for time, wait until there are fewer people around in the second half of the night, and then go digging for gold." Of course, Cao Kun definitely couldn't tell the truth. "I don't have any plans." Cao Kun said, "I just ate, maybe I need to find a place to rest first." Hearing this, Yundong almost subconsciously said, "Then you can go to the hotel where I live to rest." As soon as she finished speaking, Yundong seemed to realize what she had said. Her pretty face suddenly turned red and she hurriedly explained. I don't mean that. I mean, you can go sit at my place for a while and enjoy the air conditioning. Don't think too much about it." While explaining, Yundong secretly glanced at Cao Kun, feeling extremely embarrassed. Cao Kun laughed and said, "Okay, then I'll go sit at your place for a while. But, your boyfriend won't be angry if he finds out, right?" As the saying goes, after 2 years in prison, a sow becomes as beautiful as Jiao Chan. Cao Kun spent a full 10 years in prison. It is absolutely nonsense for him to say that he doesn't miss women. In fact, when Bai Jing and the three thugs were being filmed last night, he almost rushed out and became a part of them. And now, a beautiful woman took the initiative to invite him, so he naturally would not refuse. No. Li Tingting said hurriedly, he doesn't even know which hotel I'm staying in, so he won't find us. After saying this, Li Tingting's face turned 3 shades redder. It's bad. The more he talks, the more he reveals his true intentions. It seems his intentions can no longer be hidden. Seeing this, Cao Kun smiled and said nothing more. He and Li Tingting left the restaurant and went to the hotel where she was staying. 1 o'clock in the morning. Inside the hotel room, Cao Kun lit up a cigarette and started to put on his clothes while smoking. Li Tingting lay weakly on the bed and said, "Actually, my boyfriend is really good to me, but he is too cowardly and doesn't act like a man at all. If he could be as brave and manly as you, I would love him to death, really." Cao Kun chuckled as he put on his clothes. In fact, we should not look at things too one-sidedly. You have to know that being timid has its advantages, and being aggressive has its disadvantages. At least, timid people don't usually get into any trouble. Besides, the social security is so good now. Why do we need to be brave? How many times in a lifetime can we need to be brave? So, it's good to be a little timid and not cause trouble. As long as he treats you well, that's enough. Hearing this, Li Tingting thought for a moment, and then burst out laughing. You're such a nice guy. You played with someone's girlfriend and even said a few good words for her. Cao Kun laughed and said, "That's right. We can't play with other people's girlfriends for free. We are people of integrity. Okay, you take a rest. I'm leaving now." Seeing this, Li Tingting said reluctantly, "Hey, are you really leaving? Where are you going at this late hour?" Cao Kun waved his hand without answering, opened the door and left. After watching Cao Kun leave, Li Tingting thought about it for a long time before taking out her cell phone and removing a number from the blacklist. As a result, as soon as she released the number, the phone rang. Li Tingting curled her lips and answered the phone. An anxious male voice sounded. "Hey, Tingting, where are you?" Li Tingting pouted and said, "Stupid, of course I'm sleeping in the hotel. It's already 1 in the morning. You don't think I'm still wandering around outside, do you?" The man chuckled for a while and said, "Then, you are not angry anymore, right?" "I'm not angry anymore." Li Tingting said coquettishly, "You are so annoying. I blocked you, but you didn't even lend me a phone to call me." Hee hee. The man laughed foolishly again. Li Tingting pouted and continued, "Hey, when you ride a bicycle next time, can you stand up and pedal?" R. The man was stunned for a moment. "What bike?" "Tingting, do you want to ride a bike?" Li Tingting covered her forehead helplessly. "What?" "I mean, do you know that men who stand up and pedal hard on their bicycles are really manly and attractive?" The man said in a slightly innocent tone, "Tingting, do you want to see me riding a bicycle?" "I." Li Tingting was speechless. "Who wants to see you riding a bicycle?" "I just want to tell you that your bicycle is almost broken by someone else." "Okay, go to sleep." After saying that, Li Tingting hung up the phone angrily. On the other side, Li Tingting's boyfriend was looking at his phone with a confused look on his face. "Is your bicycle about to be broken by someone else?" "No way. His bicycle has always been at home and is in good condition. It has never been lent out. Could it be that my parents lent their bicycle to someone else when I was not at home? And Li Tingting happened to see that man riding his bicycle violently. It must be like this. Li Tingting must have seen the man standing up and kicking, otherwise she wouldn't have specifically mentioned this matter. Thinking of this, he suddenly felt warm in his heart. Tingting is thinking about herself. Hey, what a virtuous and good daughter-in-law. Chapter 5 Gold in Hand. 2 o'clock in the morning. As a third-tier city with not-so-rich nightlife, Bihar City had already become quiet at this time. Even in the city center, there is only some movement when a car passes by occasionally. And on the outer ring road of Bihar City, it is even quieter. There might not even be a car passing by for 10 or 20 minutes. There is only darkness and silence. At this time, on the western section of the outer ring road, a figure with a backpack was riding a shared bicycle speeding along the roadside. Because Cao Kun is going to dig up Lei Lao Sanzang's gold tonight. As for things like this, the fewer people who know about it, the better. So, to be safe, he didn't even take a taxi, but rode a shared bike over. Not long after, Cao Kun stopped when he came to a fork in the road on the west section. He looked around and made sure there was no one around, then rode his shared bike directly to the fork in the road. After riding about 200 meters, he stopped again in front of a boundary marker with the words Hezi Village written on it. The base of the boundary marker is a stone that is nearly 2 meters long and 70 to 80 centimeters wide. The boundary marker above is a stone that is more than 1 meter high and 30 to 40 centimeters thick, which records the origin of Hezi Village. This time, Cao Kun did not change the location. He first hid the shared bicycle in the woods nearby, then took out a military shovel that he bought in the city in the afternoon from his backpack, and started digging 1 meter behind the boundary marker of Hezi Village. At this time, it was late at night and there was no one on the West Outer Ring Road, let alone this small side road. Finally, after working hard for 30 minutes and digging more than 1 meter deep, when Cao Kun shoveled again, he heard a clanging sound from the bottom. Hearing the sound, Cao Kun was delighted and immediately started digging underneath with his hands. Soon, a tattered cloth bag was seized by Cao Kun. And inside this tattered cloth bag, there were pieces of irregular gold bricks. Seeing these gold bricks, Cao Kun couldn't help but smile. "Damn it, Lei Lao-san, you bastard, you buried it so deep that I almost thought I dug in the wrong place." Fortunately, I persisted. As he spoke, Cao Kun opened the backpack he brought with him and put all the gold bricks into it. After finishing all this, Cao Kun climbed out of the pit and looked around. Seeing that it was still quiet and no one was there, he simply put on his backpack and rode away on his bike. 3 o'clock in the morning. An inconspicuous DD special car left by her city. And the person sitting in the back seat of the DD private car was Cao Kun. Lei Lao Sanzang has already got the batch of gold, so there is no need to stay in by her city anymore. What he needs to do next is to cash in the gold. To complete this step, you have to go to another city. The reason why he chose DD Chuxing was that he was carrying more than 50 kilograms of gold with him, and he could not pass the security check whether it was a train or a plane. 2 days later. In Miang City, more than 1,700 kilometers away from Bihar City, a black Volkswagen stopped in front of the antique street. The driver in the driving seat had bloodshot eyes and looked tired. After all, driving for 2 days in a row is not easy for anyone. Of course, the rewards are also quite considerable. In addition to the normal fees, Cao Kun gave him an extra 2,000 yuan as a tip. Worth it. "Brother, we're here, get off the car now. I really can't hold on any longer. I need to find a place to have a good sleep. I'm almost numb from sitting so hard." Hearing the driver say this, Cao Kun felt the same way. After all, he also stayed in the car for 2 days. It's really uncomfortable. "Okay, master." Cao Kun smiled as he opened the car door and got out, saying, "Then you should quickly find a hotel and have a good sleep. Okay, you should be careful too." After saying goodbye to each other, the driver stepped on the accelerator and left. After watching the driver drive away, Cao Kun turned around and looked at the antique street behind him. It was already 4 o'clock in the afternoon and there were not many people on the antique street. Seeing that it was getting late, Cao Kun didn't delay any longer and walked in with his backpack. As he passed by stalls and shops one after another, Cao Kun soon arrived deep into the antique street. Suddenly, when passing by a store called Wenbaojai, Cao Kun stopped and pointed at a painting and asked, "Boss, how much is this painting?" As soon as the shop owner saw a customer coming, he hurried over. When the shop owner saw the painting hanging at the door that Cao Kun was pointing at, he immediately made an expression of admiration. "Oh, my little brother, you have a good eye. You can spot the treasure of our store at a glance. To be honest, this painting is by Zhang Daqian." Without waiting for the shop owner to finish speaking, Cao Kun simply stretched out 5 fingers and interrupted him. 500 yuan, will you sell it?" "Oh." The shop owner looked a little embarrassed and said with a smile, "Just add a little more. This is a high-quality imitation with a seal. Just 500. Cao Kun said, "If you don't sell it, I'll go look somewhere else." "Have to." Seeing that Cao Kun had locked in the price, the shop owner didn't hesitate and just sold it to him. After all, there is still money to be made from 500 yuan. After buying the painting, Cao Kun did not stop. He continued to walk deeper into the antique street. Finally, when he came to a shop, he stopped again. This is a shop that recycles jewelry, gold, antique calligraphy and paintings. The store is not very big. Moreover, compared with ordinary recycling shops, the decoration of this shop is not luxurious at all, and can even be said to be simple. The only distinctive feature is the door plaque. The entire door plaque is pitch black, but in the middle there is a white lotus flower. If the name of the store was not written on it, most people who saw this plaque would subconsciously think it was a store selling funeral clothes and coffins. Cao Kun stood in front of the store, looked up twice, then pushed the door open and walked in. The quiet shop was filled with a faint scent of sandalwood. There was only a middle-aged man in his 40s sitting behind the counter. The man was wearing a pair of rimless glasses, had a thin build, looked gentle and refined, and gave people a very elegant feeling. Seeing Cao Kun coming in with a backpack, he immediately stood up with a smile on his face. "Little brother, do you want to buy something or sell something?" Recycling shops do not just recycle, they also have business of selling to outsiders, but their main focus is recycling. Cao Kun looked at the middle-aged man, then at the surveillance camera in the store, and spoke. "Boss, I was introduced by a friend. If it's convenient, how about we talk somewhere else?" As he spoke, Cao Kun gestured towards the door behind the shop owner. Seeing this, the middle-aged man was surprised at first, but didn't say anything. Instead, he came out from behind the counter and locked the store door. After the closed sign was hung up, the middle-aged man came to Cao Kun and made a polite gesture of invitation. Without saying another word throughout the whole process, after making the gesture of invitation, the middle-aged man led the way and walked into the door behind the counter first. And Cao Kun also followed in carrying his bag. Chapter 622. Point for 5 million received. Compared with the ordinary decoration of the shop, the room behind the door is luxuriously decorated. Cao Kun followed the middle-aged man through the door, as if he had arrived at a very high-end reception room. The floor is covered with soft carpet, making walking silent. The gorgeous headlights are suspended as bright as day. On the walls around are hung paintings and calligraphy by famous people. In addition, there is a tea table for brewing tea, a wine cabinet for storing red wine, and a cigar machine for storing cigars. There is also a woman wearing a sexy cheongsam. At this moment, the woman was boiling water to make tea. When he saw this woman, Cao Kun opened his eyes wide unconsciously. What a wonderful woman! Judging from her age, the woman was only about 24 or 25 years old. Not only was she pretty, but she also had a stunning figure. The curves are all right, the waist is slender and can be held in one hand. When she moves, she is like a willow in the breeze, giving people a soft and fragile feeling. It seems to be made of water. It is no exaggeration to say that compared with Li Tingting, whom he met 2 days ago, she is far better. Especially, with such a good figure, she was wearing such a sexy cheongsam. The slit goes all the way to the waist. As she walked, the cheongsam fluttered, appearing and disappearing. Who can resist it? Cao Kun took a deep breath and immediately shifted his gaze to look around. No, I can't look at this woman anymore. If I look at her again, I'll have an embarrassing reaction. Although he had just vented his anger to Li Tingting 2 days ago. But, that little bit of venting is not enough, it is just a drop in the bucket, it is still far from enough. Think about life in prison, think about the fighting scenes in prison. Bloody scenes appeared in Cao Kun's mind. It was indeed effective. The heat and impulse in his heart were quickly suppressed. Only after entering the room did the middle-aged man change his attitude. He said with a smile on his face, "I didn't expect that the little brother is actually one of us. In this case, let's be frank and not beat around the bush. Let's take a look at the goods first." "Good." Cao Kun nodded and threw the backpack on the ground. Hearing the dull bang, the middle-aged man suddenly became alert. He quickly stepped forward, squatted down, and opened his backpack. Hiss. As the backpack was opened, the middle-aged man gasped when he saw the golden nuggets inside. The next second, he turned his head to look at the sexy cheongsam girl and said, "Xiao Qi, serve some good tea." The cheongsam woman nodded and smiled, then made 2 cups of tea and brought them over. The middle-aged man checked it and made a gesture of invitation to Cao Kun. It was not until the two of them sat down that the middle-aged man spoke. "I didn't expect your goods to be so hard, little brother. Let's talk about it. How much do you have in this batch?" 54.7 kilograms. Cao Kun said, All of them are 999 grade. The middle-aged man nodded slowly and thought, what about the price? What price do you want to sell it for? Cao Kun smiled and said, of course, this depends on the market conditions here, boss. How much can you offer? This. The middle-aged man frowned and murmured, since you were introduced by a friend, I will give you a friend's price of 410. This is the highest price I can offer. Hearing the middle-aged man say this, two words popped up in Cao Kun's mind. So dark. Before coming, he looked at today's gold price, which was 478 yuan per gram. If it is a general gold recycling shop, the price will be at least 440, 450, or even 460 yuan per gram. But here, there is only 410. However, even so, Cao Kun would still choose this place. Because he was in urgent need of money and needed to exchange the gold in his hands. Ordinary gold recycling shops simply do not have the capacity to absorb this batch of gold. Even if we attack separately, it won't work. Because such a large amount of gold was sold, it would definitely lead to a large sum of money flowing into his bank account in a short period of time. At that time, it is likely to attract investigation from Uncle Hat and cause unnecessary trouble. But if he sells it here, he doesn't have to worry about this trouble. Because this is a professional place to do this. Okay. Cao Kun finally nodded, 410 is 410. Seeing Cao Kun agreed, the middle-aged man's mouth corners raised. Since you have agreed, please take a seat. I will go check the goods. It will be quick. As he spoke, the middle-aged man brought the batch of gold that Cao Kun brought to a workbench in the corner in 3 batches. After all, it weighs 54.7 kilograms, more than 109 pounds, and his body is not as strong as Cao Kun's, so he can't take it away all at once. It was not until 20 minutes later that the middle-aged man returned to Cao Kun. Full of smiles. Obviously, he was very satisfied with the purity of this batch of gold. There is no problem with the cargo. It is indeed 54.7 kilograms. So the total is 22,427,000 yuan. Well, I'll round it up to 22.45 million for you, brother. Is that enough? Terrific. Looking at the middle-aged man's mouth corners that were harder to suppress than an AK, Cao Kun simply wanted to punch him. This time, he must have made at least 2 to 3 million, and he still has the nerve to say that he is generous? Pooh. Of course, although he thought so in his heart, Cao Kun certainly couldn't say it. Then I'd like to thank you, boss. Cao Kun said with a smile, it just so happens that I have another painting here, boss, please help me take a look at it. As he spoke, Cao Kun unfolded the fake painting of Zhang Daqian that he bought on the road for 500 yuan. Fake at first glance. However, the middle-aged man watched it very seriously, and only after he had taken a good look at it did he exclaim in admiration. Good stuff. I didn't expect this to be an authentic work of Zhang Daqian. How about I offer you 22.45 million yuan if you sell this painting to me? Cao Kun laughed and nodded, of course. The next step is invoicing and transfer. The invoice stated that a painting by Zhang Daqian was purchased from Cao Kun for 22.45 million yuan. And as for gold, what gold? Cao Kun came here just to sell paintings and had never seen any gold. As for whether the painting is an authentic work of Zhang Daqian, it doesn't matter at all. When it comes to antiques, it all depends on personal ability and luck. If some people can take advantage of bargains, then naturally we have to allow others to make mistakes. Therefore, even if it was the store owner who spent 22.45 million to buy a fake, it was completely reasonable. No matter who comes, no one can find any fault with this deal. Therefore, the 22.45 million in Cao Kun's hands was earned by him cleanly and can withstand any investigation. At 5:30 in the afternoon, Cao Kun walked out of the antique street with a relaxed look on his face. Looking at the still warm text message about bank card deposit on his phone, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise. 22.45 million. Finally, I got the initial funding before the news from Yundong district was released. Otherwise, if he misses this wave of rapid growth in Yundong district, not only will he fail to make money in Yundong district, but his next money-making plan will also be affected. Thinking of this, Cao Kun hailed a taxi and went straight to the airport. After all, this place was a foreign land where he was unfamiliar with. Now that the money is in hand, there is naturally no need to stay. However, he has not yet decided where to go next. He originally wanted to go to Haicheng first, but it was too close to Kun City in Yun Province. Chapter 7, Yang Ping, the pretentious Taoist priest. When going to Haicheng, you will naturally go to Yundong district. The reason why Yundong district is called Yundong district is because it is just a district of Haicheng. Cao Kun has been traveling all over the country these days, anxious to cash in the gold and also to prepare for the Yundong district. And the reason for going to Kun City in Yun Province was to see Yang Ping. At this time, Yang Ping was working as a Taoist priest in a small Taoist temple in Kun City, Yunnan Province. If he takes a plane, Cao Kun can reach Yang Ping's Taoist temple before 9 o'clock in the evening. In other words, if everything goes well, he will be able to get the secret manual that he has practiced for 7 or 8 years tonight. However, in this case, he would not be able to reach Haicheng tonight and would have to set off for Haicheng tomorrow. All in all, it will delay 1 day. So, he was a little hesitant. Should I go to Haicheng or look for that bastard Yang Ping? Finally, as the taxi arrived at the airport, Cao Kun made a decision. Let us go find that bastard Yang Ping and get the secret book first. Because it happened to be the evening rush hour, they were stuck in traffic for a while, and the plane to Haicheng had already taken off. So, there is no need to choose. Now there is no other choice except to go to Kuncheng to find Yang Ping. 8:55 in the evening. On the edge of Kunming City, a taxi stopped in front of a small Taoist temple that was only twice the size of an ordinary farmhouse. Cao Kun got out of the car, looked at the Taoist temple which was already closed, walked straight over and knocked on the door a few times. Not long after, a Taoist priest in his early 20s opened the door. Dear believer, our Taoist temple is closed today. If you have anything to say, please come back tomorrow. After saying this, the Taoist was about to close the door, but before he could do so, Cao Kun reached out and blocked it with his hand. Young Taoist priest, I know your host Yang Ping. I have something urgent to ask him. Please help me. This. Seeing that Cao Kun spoke so naturally and didn't seem to be lying at all, the Taoist hesitated for a moment and finally let him into the temple. Because the Taoist temple was not big, Cao Kun followed the Taoist priest to a room after a while. The Taoist knocked on the door twice and said, Master, a believer who knows you said he has something urgent to discuss with you. He has brought him here. Well, let him in. A voice that was familiar to Cao Kun came from the room. The little Taoist priest then opened the door, stood aside, and made a gesture of invitation. Signaled Cao Kun to go in. Cao Kun didn't say anything polite and walked in, but the little Taoist priest didn't follow him in and just turned around and left. At this moment, in the room, there was an incense burner lit, and a middle-aged man in a Taoist robe was sitting cross-legged on a cushion on the ground with his eyes closed. It was Yang Ping. Seeing Yang Ping acting so pretentious, not even opening his eyes when he came in, Cao Kun almost couldn't control himself and kicked him. Just pretend. How could I not know what a jerk you are, you bastard? When you were in prison, you were the one who called Scar brother your lackey, weren't you? Yang Ping didn't let Cao Kun wait for long. After just 3 minutes, he opened his eyes. Of course, it might also be because he saw from the slit of his eyes that Cao Kun impatiently picked up the incense burner. He could see that the person who came was not a good person. If you keep pretending, your head might explode. Yang Ping smiled apologetically and said, Sorry, I was just doing homework and was late. Cao Kun put down the incense burner with a forced smile. No, I'm sorry for disturbing you so late at night. No problem. Yang Ping waved his hand generously and stood up. By the way, I wonder what urgent matter this donor has. Taoists have many names for ordinary people, including donors, believers, and lay Buddhists. So, whether it is a believer or a donor, the meaning is the same. Actually, it's not urgent. Cao Kun didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. I came to see host Yang because I want a book in his hand. A book? Yang Ping looked a little surprised. Yes. Cao Kun nodded. It's an unnamed book that records some physical fitness techniques. When Yang Ping heard Cao Kun say that it was a book without a name, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Although it was fleeting, it was still captured by Cao Kun. Yang Ping pretended to be in deep thought for a while, then shook his head and said, My benefactor, I do have some books here, but they are all classics of our Taoism. There is no such thing as an unnamed book as you said. Did you find the wrong place? Cao Kun was not surprised at all when Yang Ping denied it. After all, in his timeline, the two didn't even know each other. If a person of unknown origin asks for something from you, no one will easily give it to him. I can buy it with money. Cao Kun said, Master Yang, you can name a price, I am willing to buy the book. Having just received 22 point for 5 million yuan, Cao Kun is now very confident. Hearing this, Yang Ping smiled bitterly and shook his head. My dear donor, this is not a matter of money, but I really don't have the nameless book you want. Seeing that he was willing to pay for it, but Yang Ping still refused to admit that he had the book, Cao Kun felt a little unhappy. You bastard, did I give you face? You don't practice that thing, why are you hiding it? You want to give it to me, right? Okay. Cao Kun laughed, took 2 steps forward, shortened the distance between him and Yang Ping, and whispered. Yang Ping, do you want me to help you count how many decent women you have slept with in the past 4 years? Cao Kun knew Yang Ping's situation very clearly. The entire period of his crime lasted for 7 years. In other words, up to now, he has been committing crimes for 4 years. Of course, Cao Kun didn't know how many decent women Yang Ping had slept with in the past 4 years, nor did he know these victims. However, this was enough to shock Yang Ping. As expected. After hearing Cao Kun's words, Yang Ping trembled as if he had seen a ghost. He stared at him with wide eyes, full of panic. Cao Kun smiled slightly and continued, according to the laws of our country, would you like to guess how many years you will be sentenced to? Cao Kun's words were like the last straw that broke the camel's back. After swallowing hard, Yang Ping ran out in a panic without saying a word. About 2 minutes later, Yang Ping ran back in a panic. The difference from before was that he was holding a yellowed book in his hand this time. Yang Ping handed the book to Cao Kun with both hands, and said in a trembling voice, I was blind and did not recognize the great man just now. Please give me a chance. I swear, I will definitely turn over a new leaf and become a new person. Seeing Yang Ping looking like a frightened bird at this moment, Cao Kun suddenly felt relieved. Damn. Let you and I be stubborn. If you don't accept the toast, you will have to drink the penalty wine. Cao Kun didn't say anything, just hummed lightly with his nose, then took the book from Yang Ping. Chapter 8 Damn, my appetite has increased dramatically. So heavy. After getting the book, Cao Kun discovered that the paper used for this book was not ordinary paper, but the kind of paper made from cowhide in the early days. Moreover, the paper has obviously become hard and discolored, and it is obvious that it is quite old. It's been at least several decades. It may even take 100 or 200 years. After all, such craft paper, if properly preserved, can indeed be preserved for such a long time. Unexpectedly, it was such an old book. Cao Kun carefully flipped through it in front of Yang Ping. As a result, his brows furrowed more and more as he looked at it. In the end, he even wanted to beat Yang Ping up. Because this book records a total of 72 movements. But Cao Kun only learned 14 of them. In fact, among these 14 movements, 3 are not standard and are wrong. At this moment, Cao Kun felt his blood pressure was rising. In his previous life, over a period of 7 or 8 years, he had asked Yang Ping countless times. As a result, Yang Ping always swore that these were all the actions required. There are 72 moves in total, and he calls 14 of them all. What's even worse is that among these 14 actions, 3 are wrong. No wonder every time he practiced, he felt incomplete and something was wrong. So, what on earth have I been practicing for these 7 or 8 years? In this book, in addition to these 72 movements, there are 36 special movements. It's the kind of action between a man and a woman, similar to an erotic picture. Yang Ping never even mentioned these 36 actions involving men and women. Of course, Cao Kun did not blame Yang Ping for concealing these 36 actions. To be honest, their situation in their previous life was indeed special. Not to mention women, they couldn't even see female animals. So, even if Yang Ping mentioned these 36 movements, it would be in vain. Seeing Yang Ping standing in front of him trembling, with sweat on his forehead dripping down his chin, Cao Kun finally resisted the urge to beat him up. Forget it. Since we are destined to be together, I will give you a chance to correct your mistakes. Remember, don't mess with those women in the future. They are already very pitiful because they are trying to have children. You still take the opportunity to mess with them. It's very hateful. Besides, I'm not trying to scare you. If what you did is discovered, you will never be able to get out of prison for the rest of your life. Okay, having said that, you can take care of yourself. After saying that, Cao Kun tucked the book under his armpit and walked out. Seeing this, Yang Ping was startled and hurriedly chased after him. Brother, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Just stay a little longer. By the way, brother, I have 2 cans of good tea here, I'll go get them for you. Shopping cards, I still have tens of thousands of dollars worth of shopping cards here, you can take them, I can't use them anyway. Damn it, I knew that Yang Ping didn't tell the truth, but I didn't expect that he would hide so many actions. 10:30 at night. In Kunshan, in a 5-star hotel room, Cao Kun lay on the bed, cursing at Yang Ping while flipping through the nameless book. He had been practicing the physical fitness secrets for 7 or 8 years, and today he finally got the complete version. Naturally, he had to learn it quickly. After all, he knew the effects of this set of secrets better than anyone else. Moreover, his 10-year imprisonment made him realize that possessing strong fighting ability is sometimes more important than having billions of dollars in wealth. Perhaps it was because he had practiced for many years, although he only practiced the first 14 moves, but as the saying goes, once you master one, you can master 100 moves. Cao Kun did not find any difficulty in the next 58 moves. Soon, after half an hour of familiarization, Cao Kun got out of bed and started his first attempt. Because there were too many new movements and I sometimes couldn't remember them accurately, I stumbled a lot the first time and it took me nearly 20 minutes to practice all 72 movements. The second time was obviously smoother and only took 14 or 15 minutes. The third time, it was even smoother and took a full 10 minutes. 10 minutes is almost the limit for this set of movements. If you do it faster, some movements may not be done properly. Don't do it for the sake of speed, do it for quality. Moreover, after doing these 3 movements, Cao Kun immediately felt the difference from before. It was similar to before, with my entire body still feeling hot, but this time the heat was more comfortable, as if my entire body was soaking in a hot spring. His skin, muscles, and bones seemed to have turned into dry earth, madly absorbing this warm energy. Although Cao Kun knew that this description was strange, he really felt that way now. At the same time, all the pores on his body seemed to be opened up, and he felt extremely comfortable. Seeing that it was not yet midnight and he was not feeling sleepy, Cao Kun was just about to continue practicing for the 4th time. Suddenly, he frowned and his expression became strange. He was actually hungry. How can I get hungry so quickly? Before coming to the hotel, he had just eaten, and he ate 3 pounds of cooked beef. How long has it been? Damn it, why am I hungry so soon? Cao Kun touched his stomach, shook his head in confusion, and opened the bag on the tea table. When leaving Yang Ping, Cao Kun bought some cooked beef from a delicatessen stall because he had not eaten yet. He originally wanted to buy just a little bit, but when he tasted it, he found it was so delicious that he bought 3 pounds and ate his fill. He even packed up 3 pounds of it because it was so delicious, planning to eat it tomorrow. What he opened now was the 3 pounds of packaged cooked beef. This is really weird. This beef can't be some high-tech product. How come I'm hungry again so soon? Cao Kun chewed with big mouthfuls and muttered to himself. After a while, he had eaten all 3 pounds of cooked beef. He didn't think much about it. After eating, he started practicing the 72 moves again. First time. Second time. The third time. The movements became more and more skillful, and each time was controlled at about 10 minutes. Just when Cao Kun was about to practice for the 4th time, he suddenly stopped and his expression became strange again. Oh shit. Hungry again? Silently feeling his empty stomach, Cao Kun looked as if he had seen a ghost. How long has it been? Half an hour. He had just eaten 3 pounds of cooked beef half an hour ago, and he was hungry again. Damn, did you encounter something evil? Cao Kun has always been an atheist, but what happened today forced him to think in this direction. Because, I just ate 3 pounds of cooked beef half an hour ago, and I'm hungry again in the blink of an eye. This is too outrageous. Wait a minute. Suddenly, Cao Kun thought of another possibility and his expression became serious. Damn it, could this be a side effect of rebirth? Chapter 9, 72 Glutton Style. Apart from being possessed by evil spirits, the second possibility that Cao Kun thought of was that it was caused by his own identity as a reborn person. After all, apart from the encounter with evil spirits and rebirth, there was nothing special going on his side. Comparing the two, Cao Kun would rather believe that he was possessed by evil spirits. Because, if it was a sequelae caused by rebirth, he simply didn't dare to imagine what the future would be like. 3 pounds of cooked beef. I was full but felt hungry in half an hour. Doesn't this mean that he will have to eat a meal every half hour from now on? 24 hours a day, 48 meals. Then you don't have to do anything every day, just eat. Just thinking about such a life made Cao Kun feel terrified. What is the meaning of life other than just eating? Therefore, he would rather be possessed by evil spirits than have this be a side effect of rebirth. Thinking about this in his mind, Cao Kun opened the cupboard in the room dejectedly and took out 2 buckets of instant noodles and 2 hams. No matter what, he had to fill his stomach first. After all, he was really hungry now. 5 minutes later, 2 buckets of instant noodles were ready. Because he was feeling a little bored, Cao Kun was in no mood to eat slowly. He devoured the 2 buckets of instant noodles in no time at all. After finishing the 2 buckets of instant noodles, he did not practice the nameless moves anymore, but lay on the bed, counting the time, and waited quietly. It is annoying, but since it has happened, we still have to face it. Therefore, he decided to do an experiment to see how long it would take for him to feel hungry again after eating. Time passed little by little, and half an hour passed in the blink of an eye. Huh! With a sound of surprise, Cao Kun sat up from the bed. Half an hour had passed, but he still felt full and not hungry at all. With a look of doubt on his face, Cao Kun murmured, "Am I overthinking? This isn't a side effect of rebirth at all." After talking to himself, Cao Kun continued to wait. Finally, after another half an hour, and then an hour, Cao Kun felt relieved. An hour passed and there was still no sign of hunger. It seemed that his hunger was not caused by rebirth. But, if it wasn't caused by rebirth, then what caused me to get hungry so quickly just now? If you eat 3 pounds of cooked beef and get hungry in half an hour, there is definitely something wrong. Could it be? Is it really a ghost? Although being possessed by evil spirits was indeed one of the answers Cao Kun had prepared, as an atheist, it was still a little difficult for him to accept. At this moment, he caught a glimpse of the nameless book next to it. In an instant, his brain seemed to be electrified, and an incredible guess suddenly appeared in Cao Kun's mind. He stared at the book in disbelief. Fuck, could it be these moves that caused this? Cao Kun clearly remembers how his body reacted after practicing the full set of 72 moves. It feels warm, like soaking in a hot spring. Skin, muscles, bones, and internal organs, like dry earth, greedily absorbed the warm heat. In fact, he felt that his description was a bit strange. And now, he felt that he was probably right. Because the real situation is probably like this. The real effect of this set of moves is probably to make people digest the food quickly. Digested food is converted into a special kind of energy. And this special energy can be directly absorbed by the body. If this is the case, then it would be completely consistent with his feelings. Of course, whether this is true or not still needs to be verified through experiments. Thinking of this, Cao Kun immediately took a starting stance and started practicing that set of moves again. 10 minutes later, after finishing a set of moves, Cao Kun's mouth couldn't help but rise up. Sure enough, it was caused by the moves he practiced. Because, he, who had not felt any hunger just now, could clearly feel hungry after practicing this set of moves. It turns out that this is the real way to open this set of moves. Food is converted into energy, which is then absorbed by the body, thereby achieving the effect of strengthening the body. This is so cool. In other words, from now on, he no longer needs to deliberately exercise his body, as long as he has enough food. Thinking of this, Cao Kun grinned, immediately picked up the landline in the room and called the front desk. "Hello, is there anything to eat in the hotel now?" "Oh, there is a chef on duty, but he can only cook some simple meals." "Then, give me 300 eggs, 200 boiled and 100 fried." "Yes, that's 300. You heard me right. Tell the kitchen to make them quickly and send them to me as soon as they are done." After hanging up the phone, Cao Kun immediately picked up the nameless book on the bed with joy. I never expected that these 72 seemingly ordinary moves, when combined together, could produce such a magical effect. If that's the case, then the 36 actions of men and women recorded later must not be simple and awkward. It's a pity that Li Xingting is not here, otherwise, she would definitely be very willing for me to do the experiment on her. The next day at 10 o'clock in the morning, Cao Kun came out of the hotel, took a taxi and went to the airport. He felt like he hadn't wanted to eat eggs for a long time. After eating 300 eggs, he was completely full. Even when he swallowed the last 20 eggs, he couldn't help vomiting. It's just I'm clearly hungry, but I just can't eat and I feel like vomiting. He never expected that his appetite, which had been tortured by prison for 10 years, would start to become picky about food just a few days after he was released from prison. However, the result is good. After a night of feasting and drinking, his body was obviously stronger than before. It was quite difficult for him to carry the 54.7 kilograms of gold. And now, he found something of almost the same weight, even heavier than 54.7 kilograms, and he carried it with no pressure at all. I can clearly feel that my physical condition has definitely improved a lot. Not only that, his figure has also become better. Although his figure was not bad before, it became even better after this night's transformation. The muscle lines on his body are clearer and he looks more masculine and stronger than before. And this is just the effect of one night. In addition, different foods can provide completely different amounts of energy. Take beef, instant noodles and eggs as an example. Eating all-you-can-eat beef was enough to sustain him practicing that set of moves 3 times. All-you-can-eat instant noodles could only sustain him through one practice. In fact, by the time he finished the last move, he was already starving. Eating all-you-can-eat eggs could sustain him practicing a little more than twice. I can practice it twice, but it is not enough to last until the 3rd time. I can only practice around the 20th movement on the 3rd time, and I am too hungry to go on. Therefore, when he was relying on eggs, he had to stop and eat a few eggs to replenish his energy after every 2 exercises, otherwise he would not be able to hold on for the 3rd time. For this reason, he also gave this set of moves a very appropriate name. 72 Style Glutton. Chapter 10, Lucy Liu's Service. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. At the exit of Haicheng Airport, Cao Kun walked out with the crowd. Standing on the steps of the exit and looking at the city center in the distance, he couldn't help but feel a sense of emotion. The place where he was imprisoned in his previous life was in Haicheng, called Haicheng Second Prison, a prison specifically for serious criminals. And now, he is back. But this time, he is no longer a murderer. I don't know if Haicheng Second Prison will be empty, lonely and cold without him. Mr. Cao Kun, over here, over here. Just as Cao Kun was feeling emotional, suddenly, a female voice drew his attention back. Cao Kun turned his head and saw a sexy young woman wearing a white shirt, a tight skirt, black socks, high heels, and a wedding ring on her finger, waving at him not far away. It was the real estate agent he contacted online this morning, Lucy Liu. That's right. After a few days of hard work, Cao Kun finally came to Yundong district in Haicheng to buy a house. Although the real estate market is currently on the decline and is not as hot as it was in previous years, and even housing prices in many places have shown a significant decline, Yundong district is about to become an exception. Because, in a dozen days, a notification will appear. Haicheng's Yundong district will be designated as a special economic zone. Maybe many people don't understand what this means. Let us take a recent example to make this clear. In 2017, a place called Xiong'an was designated as a special economic zone. On the night the news came out, Xiong'an's housing prices soared from 5 or 6,000 to 50 or 60,000. It increased tenfold in one night. In some places, it has increased more than tenfold. Even in places with worse locations, the prices have increased 6 or 7 times. That night, real estate speculators and investors from all over the country all flocked to Xiong'an. It is no exaggeration to say that night, there were no plane or train tickets available to Xiong'an. Many people even drove thousands of kilometers overnight with truckloads of cash. Yundong district is another special economic zone after Xiong'an. Compared with Xiong'an in 2017, this place will be even crazier. Because the overall economic environment in the world is not good now. Many people have money but cannot find investment projects, and can only watch the money in their hands depreciate day by day. The emergence of Yundong district gave these people a target for venting. Therefore, the Yundong district is bound to be even crazier than the previous Xiong'an. Of course, Cao Kun learned all this from one of his cellmates. Although Haicheng No. 2 prison is a prison for serious criminals do not specifically refer to criminals such as murderers and robbers. Economically, he can also become a serious criminal. Cao Kun's cellmate was imprisoned in Haicheng's second prison because he committed a serious financial mistake. Because he is only good at and knowledgeable about economics, his younger brother usually talks mostly about economic matters. In addition to the Yundong district, a lot of things were also discussed. In fact, 1/6 of the money-making projects listed by Cao Kun on that page were provided by this person. Looking at Lucy Liu, who was waving at him, Cao Kun smiled and strode over. Yundong district is at least an hour's drive from Haicheng Airport. When the two contacted each other this morning, Cao Kun did not explicitly say he wanted to buy a house, but just said he wanted to take a look. As a result, Lucy Liu actually ran directly to the airport to pick him up. It seems that the real estate business is really not easy to do now. Manager Liu, you are too polite. Why did you come to the airport to pick me up? Cao Kun smiled and strode up to Lucy Liu. Oh, this is as it should be. Lucy Liu smiled enthusiastically and helped Cao Kun open the passenger door of the Volkswagen next to him. People like us who work in the service industry have to serve big bosses like you well. Cao Kun laughed and said as he sat in the passenger seat, the main thing is that your service is too good. You even came to the airport to pick me up. If I don't buy a house from you, I will feel guilty. Really? Lucy Liu smiled even more brightly. If you really buy a house from me, I can provide you with even better service. Really? What kind of service? Lucy Liu smiled, blinked at Cao Kun, and said mysteriously, you will know when you buy a house from me. I will definitely provide you with satisfactory service. After saying that, Lucy Liu helped Cao Kun close the passenger door. Seeing this, Cao Kun smiled and licked his lips. Sure enough, only young women know how to play. In terms of appearance and figure, Lucy Liu and Li Tingting are similar. However, she is more intellectual, more mature, and more charming than Li Tingting. There is a unique charm in her gestures, her smiles, and even her words. To put it bluntly, I want the sun. 1 hour later, Liu Yuling drove Cao Kun to Yundong district. Haicheng is a first-tier city, and the Yundong district of Haicheng should not be bad. But in fact, the Yundong district was really not that good at that time. This is because the focus of Haicheng is developing westwards, and Yundong district is to the east of Haicheng, which leads to an awkward situation for Yundong district. Whether in entertainment, medical care, education and other aspects, Yundong district is far inferior to the other districts. This can be proven by the housing prices. The housing prices in several other districts have basically exceeded 10,000 yuan, and many areas are priced at tens of thousands per square meter. Some can even cost hundreds of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands, per square meter. In Yundong district, there are only a handful of places with a population of over 10,000. In most communities, housing prices are below 10,000 yuan. Even in more remote areas, the price is only about 7,000 to 8,000 yuan per square meter. The housing prices are not at all like those in a first-tier city. By the way, Mr. Cao, why do you want to look at houses in Yundong district? Lucy Liu continued driving while chatting with Cao Kun. I'll be honest. Although Yundong district belongs to Haicheng, the development here is really average. It's even worse than the average third-tier small cities. Cao Kun smiled and nodded. I know, but the houses here are cheap. I'm going to take a gamble. If this place develops in the future, the value of the house I bought will increase. Hearing this, an imperceptible excitement flashed across Lucy Liu's eyes. As an old real estate agent who has been working in this industry for many years, Lucy Liu has a basic idea of who really wants to buy a house and who just wants to look. And from what Cao Kun had just said, she keenly realized that Cao Kun really wanted to buy a house in Yundong district. It's so hard to come across such a potential customer, so you must not let him go. Thinking of this in her mind, Lucy Liu calmly unbuttoned a button of her shirt. A faint ravine was released quietly. Chapter 11, 24 million, all in. Of course, the so-called silent operation was only what Lucy Liu thought was silent. Little did she know that all her little actions were actually seen by Cao Kun. Cao Kun was not polite and just looked straight over. Others deliberately let you see it. If you don't look at it, wouldn't it be a waste of their kindness? Moreover, he also gave a very pertinent evaluation. Mashiro, it's so big. Hearing this, Lucy Liu was stunned, pretending that she had just realized something, and then she cried out, covering her chest shyly. Hate it, Mr. Cao, why are you looking around? Although she said she hated it, Lucy Liu's tone and action sounded like she was acting like a spoiled child. Cao Kun laughed and said, you untied it yourself. What? Liu Yuling said shyly, I'm just hot, what do you think? I don't mean anything else. Cao Kun smiled and nodded, Okay, it's my fault. Drive carefully first and don't crash it. About 10 minutes later, Lucy Liu stopped the car. Cao Kun got out of the car, looked around, and couldn't help feeling a little sad. At this time, their location, even in Yundong district, was considered a relatively remote eastern suburb. Looking around, there is no sign of any big city. It would be a stretch to call it a small fourth-tier city. Looking around, there is a strong suburban flavor. However, who would have thought that such a remote suburb would become the center of Yundong's special zone in the future? In the future, the starting price of housing in this area will be over 100,000 yuan per square meter. This place also saw the fastest and highest increase in housing prices after the news of the Yundong special zone came out. This is because once the news about the Yundong special zone is released, many people will be able to see how important the location here is. After all, the west is the direction of the city center, which has been fully developed and there is not much room for development. To the south and north, the terrain is not suitable for development. The only few mountains in Haicheng are located to the south and north of Yundong district. Only develop eastwards. While developing eastward, the center of the special zone must also shift eastward. Therefore, once the news of the Yundong special zone is released, a large number of people will flock here, and the housing prices here will increase more than 10 times in a short period of time, like playing. Lucy Liu also came out of the car and came to Cao Kun. At this moment, she was even less covered than when she was in the car. She simply opened her collar to both sides, exposing 1/3 of both hemispheres. She had made up her mind to take down Cao Kun no matter what. The real estate business is so depressed right now that it's very difficult to meet a customer who really wants to buy a house. Cao Kun took a look at the whiteness of Lucy Liu's exposed face and said teasingly, "Manager Liu, you have quite the capital." "That's right." Lucy Liu straightened up proudly, but then she became a little sad and sighed, "Alas, this is all I have left." "What's the matter?" Cao Kun asked curiously, "From your tone, you seem to be in some trouble." "What else could it be?" "I'm short of money." Lucy Liu smiled bitterly. "When the real estate business was doing well before, I did make some money. Then, without knowing how high the sky is, I took out a loan and bought a school district house in the city. One is for investment, and the other is to make it easier for children to go to school in the future. The total loan for that house was 20 years, and the monthly repayment was 8,000 yuan. But who would have thought that just 2 years later, the real estate business would plummet, and my husband's job would also become increasingly unsatisfactory. Now, the money we earn is barely enough to pay off the loan. We are really going to be broke soon." Having said this, Lucy Liu did not forget to cast a miserable look at Cao Kun. A lovable look. Seeing this, Cao Kun smiled. As expected of a young woman, she is even smarter than a young girl. These little movements and expressions are really seductive. He thought for a moment and said, "Since you, Manager Liu, have described myself as so pathetic, I would probably feel guilty if I don't buy a house from you." Hearing what Cao Kun said, Lucy Liu's expression became even more pitiful. "That's right, Mr. Cao, if you don't buy a house from me, I'll really be left with nothing. You can't just abandon me." Cao Kun smiled and nodded. "Okay, let's talk about the terms first." "Negotiate terms." Lucy Liu's eyes were obviously disappointed. To buy a house in this area, the price would be at most 1 million. According to the current agency market conditions, Cao Kun needs to pay a 1.5% agency fee, and the landlord also needs to pay a 1.5% agency fee. In this way, for a house worth 1 million yuan, she would only get 30,000 yuan at most. But this is the ideal situation. Normally, it is impossible to take the full 3% agency fee. Because now it is a buyer's market, there are more people selling houses than buying them. So, now the one who buys the house is the boss. Since he is the boss, he naturally dare not take all the 1.5% agency fee from the boss. At most 0.5%. In fact, it's not even 0.5%, and there is no agency fee from the buyer's side, only the seller's. In other words, she would get at most 15,000 or 20,000 yuan in the end. With just this little money, Cao Kun still wants to negotiate with me? He doesn't really think that he can have sex with me for just this little money, does he? Impossible. At most, you can just let him take advantage of you and satisfy his desire. She is a woman with a bottom line. With these thoughts flashing through her mind, Lucy Liu wanted to fight for it again, and said in a coquettish tone, Mr. Cao, they are in such a miserable situation, why are you still negotiating with them? This house is just a small matter for you. Cao Kun smiled and nodded. One house is indeed a small matter, but who said I only bought one house? Lucy Liu's expression froze for a moment. Are you planning to buy two sets? No. Cao Kun shook his head. I don't plan to buy by set, I plan to buy by price. By money? Hearing these three words, Lucy Liu was confused. What does it mean to buy by money? After working in real estate for so many years, this was the first time she heard such a new word. Mr. Cao, I don't understand, what do you mean by buying by money? Cao Kun looked into Lucy Liu's eyes and explained seriously. What I mean by buying according to the money is that I have 24 million yuan in hand right now, and I plan to use it all to buy houses nearby, no matter how many houses I buy, until the 24 million yuan is all spent. Do you understand? Although the gold was only sold for 22.45 million, Cao Kun still had some savings. These savings were what his grandfather had worked hard for a lifetime and saved on food and drink for him. A total of about 1.5 million yuan, when added together, it was exactly 24 million yuan. Cao Kun planned to exchange all the 24 million yuan for a house near Yundong district. After all, it is a business that is sure to make money. Every extra cent you invest now can earn you more than 10 cents in the future. In this situation, even a fool would know how to go all in. Chapter 12. What bottom line? I don't know. Next to the car, Lucy Liu stared at Cao Kun in a daze, feeling like her brain was going blank. Do you want to use all 24 million to buy properties nearby? Reason told Lucy Liu that Cao Kun was absolutely talking nonsense. Because, no matter what clothes he was wearing or the shoes he was wearing, he didn't look like someone who could come up with 24 million. Moreover, this is the Yundong district of Haicheng. If it is a necessity and you don't have much money, buying a house here is something Lucy Liu can totally understand. Liu Yuling simply could not understand why someone like Cao Kun wanted to spend 24 million yuan to speculate in real estate here. Because everyone in Haicheng knows that the focus of Haicheng is now in the west, and the Yundong district is being taken care of by a stepmother, and it cannot be taken care of in a short period of time. It's possible that after 5, 6, or even more than 10 years, this place will still be like this. Because the development in the West has just started not long ago, and the focus in the next few years will definitely not shift. Therefore, in the next few years, at least in the next 5 years, it will be difficult for any changes to occur in Yundong district. And when the development in the West is completed, it may not be the turn of Yundong district. Because, in addition to Yundong district, Haicheng has several other districts. You don't necessarily have to develop towards Yundong district. Therefore, using 24 million to speculate in real estate here is not only a risky act, but also a stupid act. With this money, it would be better to put it in the bank and earn interest. Therefore, reason told Lucy Liu that Cao Kun was absolutely talking nonsense and he absolutely could not take out 24 million to speculate in real estate here. However, Liu Yuling's intuition told her that Cao Kun was not joking. Because, when he said those words just now, Lucy Liu could feel that he really intended to do so. If he really intends to spend 24 million to speculate in real estate here. Thinking of this, Lucy Liu was so excited that she trembled a little. 24 million. If she bought all their houses, even if Cao Kun didn't have to pay any agency fee, she would be able to live a well-off life just from the agency fee from the landlord. Because 1.5% of 24 million is as much as 360,000. 360,000. This is more than just being full, it's literally overstuffed. With this income, she can completely rest for the next 2 years. Manager Liu. Seeing that Lucy Liu was stunned and had no reaction after hearing what he said, Cao Kun called her. Lucy Liu reacted suddenly, she looked straight into Cao Kun's eyes, swallowed her saliva, and said, Mr. Cao, you are not kidding, are you? Are you really going to invest 24 million to speculate in real estate here? Cao Kun smiled, took out his mobile phone and showed his bank account balance. The purpose of doing this is mainly to give Lucy Liu some reassurance. Because, in the future, Lucy Liu will have a lot of work to do. If she has any doubts, she may not do her job well. In order to prevent Liu Yuling from delaying his plans, he simply gave her a reassurance so that she could relax and work hard. 1, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000. Lucy Liu silently counted the money in Cao Kun's account, and she instantly became energetic. Be good. He really has 24 million. Did you see that? Cao Kun put away his phone and said with a smile, I've already prepared the money. Now it depends on whether you want to make money or not. Think about it. I've been dreaming about it. Please make some money for me. Please. Lucy Liu didn't care about the impact anymore and quickly grabbed Cao Kun's arm with a flattering and seductive look on her face. You want to make money? Cao Kun said with a smile, no problem, of course I can make money for you, but I have conditions. Accept. Before Cao Kun could say anything, Lucy Liu immediately interrupted him and said, I will accept any conditions you offer. If the agency fee was just 15,000 yuan, she must have a bottom line. However, the current agency fee is 360,000. What bottom line is this? I don't even know. Cao Kun laughed out loud, don't worry, I'll definitely give this job to you, but I still want to tell you my conditions. Lucy Liu was surprised for a moment. I have already agreed to all the conditions, why are there still conditions? Then tell me, what are the conditions? Lucy Liu said. First, I want to buy all the 24 million in a week. Lucy Liu was surprised. In a week? This time is too short. You know, generally speaking, a house transaction, from the time the two parties meet to the completion of the transaction and transfer of ownership, will take at least a few days. In a remote area like Yundong district, 24 million yuan can buy about 30 houses. In other words, we must ensure that 4 or 5 units are transferred per day, otherwise. No. Wrong. At least 6 units are transferred per day. This is because the real estate center is closed on Saturdays and Sundays, so property transfers can only be completed within 5 days a week at most. Transferring ownership of 6 houses in one day, it's really stressful. I have to prepare a lot of materials. Second. Cao Kun continued. The houses I want to buy are limited to a few communities nearby. I don't want houses in other communities. Lucy Liu looked around and nodded. No problem with that. Room agents also have a range, and her range is just a few residential areas nearby. Otherwise, she would not have been contacted by Cao Kun. Third, the house must be paid in full. If it is a loan, as you know, you need to go to the bank to repay the loan first. There will be many more steps in between. It is impossible to transfer the property within a week. Lucy Liu nodded, I know, don't worry, I definitely won't look for a house with a mortgage. And the fourth one. Cao Kun continued, it's best if the landlord is not a local. It's best to choose a landlord who is weak in Haicheng and is obviously here to speculate on real estate. A house that originally cost 7,000 or 8,000 yuan per square meter became 70,000 or 80,000 yuan, or even over 100,000 yuan per square meter just a few days after being sold. Few people can accept this result. If it is a local, he will probably raise his arms and bring his relatives and friends to cause trouble. Either force him to check out, or force him to hand over the excess profits. Although Cao Kun was not afraid of this kind of situation at all, it was still a trouble after all. Therefore, try not to choose local ones, but those who are obviously from other places to speculate in real estate. Although these people may cause trouble, they are easier to deal with than a large number of local relatives. Liu Yuling didn't know why Cao Kun added such a strange condition, but she nodded and agreed anyway. Chapter 13 Prison, University, Women. Next, Cao Kun and Lucy Liu talked about some small details about buying a house. When there were no more problems, the two chose to go their separate ways right where they were. It's not that Lucy Liu's health makes it inconvenient for the two to have an in-depth communication. It's not that Cao Kun is not interested now. Rather, Lucy Liu really has too many things to do right now. First of all, she had to go back and pick a house quickly. She would not take a house with a mortgage, nor a house owned by a local. Secondly, after selecting a suitable house, she will call each one of them one by one to arrange the meeting time and so on. The last step is to prepare the transfer materials and other things, which is also a considerable amount of work. In short, she definitely won't be able to communicate with Cao Kun today. In fact, she is so busy now that she would be lucky to be able to go to bed early this morning. 5:30 p.m. In the suburbs of Haicheng, a taxi stopped in front of a large building. The car door opened and Cao Kun walked out. Looking at the cold, solemn tall building in front of him, Cao Kun first took a deep breath slowly, then lit a cigarette, leaned on the taxi, and smoked silently. This is where he was imprisoned for 10 years in his previous life. Haicheng's second prison. At this time, there were already many familiar faces in the prison. For example, Lei Lao-san, who hid 54.7 kilograms of gold and never confessed. He witnessed his mother being killed when he was young, and when he grew up he chose to kill the other party's entire family. Liu Darju was imprisoned for raping many young girls and was forced to work as a prison bus driver in prison. There is also the super male Li Biao, who was born with one more Y chromosome than normal people. He raped his mother, beat his father to a disability, and threw his neighbor from a building, leaving him paralyzed. He is so violent that he either beats people up or is on his way to beat people up every day. Finally, Cao Kun dug out his 2 eyeballs, and he calmed down. However, Cao Kun is destined not to enter in this life, and no one knows who will subdue this violent Cao Xiong in the end. As scenes from his past life replayed in his mind, Cao Kun finally stood up straight after finishing 3 cigarettes. With one last look at Haicheng's second prison as a farewell, he opened the car door and got in. "Master, let's go to Haicheng University." In his previous life, Cao Kun had 3 major regrets. The first regret is that I was wrongly imprisoned and was unable to clear myself of the injustice. The second regret was that I was unable to take revenge on Wang Shanshan and her family of 3. The third regret is that I never went to college. For Cao Kun, going to university is not only about gaining knowledge and academic qualifications, but also the long-cherished wish of his grandfather. Cao Kun grew up without parents and was raised by his grandfather. In the impression of the older generation, once you go to college, everything in life seems to be stable. Therefore, sending Cao Kun to university has always been the old man's wish. In fact, until 2 years ago, when Cao Kun was just a sophomore in high school, the old man's biggest concern before his death was whether he had been admitted to university. However, he was only a sophomore in high school that year and had not yet taken the college entrance examination. Later, although he was admitted to university, he was framed by Wang Shanshan's family of 3 and was sent to prison. Therefore, he was never able to fulfill his grandfather's wish that he could go to college. And in this life, he finally has the opportunity to fulfill his grandfather's last wish. Coincidentally, the university he applied for was Haicheng University in Haicheng. So, now that he was here, he naturally had to go and take a look at this place that he had no chance to visit in his previous life. 6 o'clock in the evening. In front of the gate of Haicheng University, Cao Kun got out of a taxi. Because it was summer vacation, most students had already gone home, and only a small number of students chose to stay in school. Therefore, Haicheng University seemed a little cold at this time. Perhaps it was because the security guard neglected his duty, or perhaps it was because the school did not restrict the entry of outsiders. Cao Kun entered the campus of Haicheng University smoothly. It's really beautiful. There is a green football field. There are dozens of basketball courts connected in rows. There are also patches of bamboo forests and patches of sycamore forests. Of course, there are also rockery, artificial lakes and teaching buildings. It's much better than Haicheng's second prison. Walking in the sparsely populated campus, just as Cao Kun was enjoying the quietness, suddenly, as if he had discovered something, he stopped. Next to the dense bamboo forest ahead, a woman who was considered to be the best in both figure and appearance was drinking a bottle of Jiang Xiaobai. I was crying while drinking. Frog fun. What a goddess. Cao Kun rarely uses the word goddess to describe women. Because he felt that anyone who had something to do with the word God must have some awesome qualities that no one could match. Even the Cheongsam woman he had met before was just a top-notch woman in his eyes. And he worshipped the woman in front of him as a goddess at first sight. Because this woman is far more beautiful than that Cheongsam woman, and her figure is far more sexy than that Cheongsam woman. Even Cao Kun couldn't help but think of a passage in his mind that he found very interesting. Some girls are very rich and are born with breasts. But this girl is a bit poor, she only has 2 Mercedes-Benz G-Class. Seeing Cao Kun looking at her, the woman cried and said something fiercely. What are you looking at? Have you never seen a woman cry? Cao Kun was stunned by the woman's harsh words. Is she being cruel to herself? So cute. Are all fierce girls so cute? Cao Kun smiled, and instead of leaving, he walked over. Why were you dumped? He was drinking alone here and crying bitterly. Cao Kun couldn't think of any other possibility except that he was heartbroken. The woman wiped her red eyes and cried, Do you know how to talk? I'm the one who dumped someone else. With my looks and figure, would you be willing to dump me? Cao Kun thought about it and nodded. That's right. With this woman's appearance and figure, she can definitely be called a stunner. Cao Kun doesn't he know what other people are like, but if it were him, he would definitely not dump a woman as long as she didn't do anything that violated his bottom line. Just take these two G-class cars for example, I could never drive them enough in my lifetime, it's impossible to get rid of them. Then why are you crying so sadly? Cao Kun asked. This time, the woman ignored Cao Kun and took another sip of Jiang Xiaobai. Seeing this, Cao Kun nodded, turned around and left. He had been a bootlicker for 3 years in his previous life, but ended up licking himself into prison. He had had enough of being a bootlicker. So, just don't say it. Don't think that just because you are beautiful and have a great figure, everyone should pamper you. Suddenly, Cao Kun had only taken a few steps away when a woman's voice sounded behind him. Hey, you wanna do it? Cao Kun was stunned for a moment, then turned to look at the woman. What? Just to see the scenery deep in the bamboo forest. What scenery? Why are you so slow like a woman? Come in if you want, or forget it if you don't want to. After saying that, the woman stood up and went into the bamboo forest. As he watched the woman enter the bamboo forest, Cao Kun touched his nose innocently. Oh my god, this girl is so fierce. Why? I have to talk to her about reason. After saying that, Cao Kun strode in. Chapter 14 The Landlord Who Lost Money. 2 hours later. In front of the bamboo forest, Cao Kun watched the girl's back as she left, feeling a little complicated. Because he never expected that it was the first time that a girl was criticized. If the girl already has rich experience, then he will not have any psychological burden at all. We all met by chance and it was just a friendly exchange. There was no question of who was taking advantage of whom, let alone who was responsible for whom. However, it was the girl's first time, which made Cao Kun feel a little less relaxed. Although the girl left after the incident, she left very decisively without saying anything about requiring him to take responsibility, as if she was the scumbag. However, the more the girl behaved like this, the more uncomfortable Cao Kun felt. He always felt that he should do something. But what can be done? He didn't even know the girl's name. It's not that he didn't ask the girl's name, he did ask, but the girl didn't tell him. He even asked the girl why she was drinking alone and crying while drinking, and whether she was bullied. As a result, the girl did not tell him the reason and asked him to leave the school immediately. Because Haicheng University has security patrols at night, and they are very aggressive towards non-school visitors. Cao Kun was very surprised by this. How did the girl know that he was not a student of Haicheng University? Does he look like a mature person in society? No way. Although his soul is indeed mature, his body is only 18 years old after all. In this regard, he also asked the girl how she knew that he was not a student of Haicheng University. As a result, the girl didn't tell him. Watching the girl's back getting farther and farther away until it disappeared, Cao Kun suddenly laughed at himself. Really? She's a girl and she's so carefree. Why am I a man and I'm so worried about everything, just like a woman? After saying that, Cao Kun smiled, shook his head, and walked away. 10:30 at night. In Haicheng, in a 5-star hotel room, Cao Kun walked in carrying large and small bags of food. After tasting the benefits of the 72-style rice bucket, he is now increasingly looking forward to seeing how strong his body will eventually become. So, he made himself an exercise plan. Exercise at least 3 hours a day. In 3 hours, at the rate of performing the Fan Tong 72 posture once every 10 minutes, he can perform it 18 times. 1 time requires 1 pound of cooked beef as the base, and 18 times means that at least 18 pounds of cooked beef must be prepared. Of course, he didn't actually prepare 18 pounds of cooked beef. After the experience of feeling sick after eating eggs last night, he would definitely not make the same mistake again. So, he bought different types of food tonight. There are dumplings, steamed buns, kebabs, steaks, pizza, hamburgers, crayfish and other delicacies. Try different ways to eat them and you'll never make the same mistake with eggs again. The next morning, 7:30. Looking at Cao Kun coming out of the hotel, Lucy Liu yawned and helped him open the passenger door. Seeing Lucy Liu's exhausted face and bloodshot eyes, Cao Kun couldn't help but make a joke. Why, your husband came back last night. During yesterday's conversation, Cao Kun learned that Lucy Liu's husband was on a business trip and had just been gone for 2 days. He would have to wait a few more days before returning. Lucy Liu gave Cao Kun a resentful look. Bar. Do you know how busy I was last night? 3 o'clock. I went to bed at 3 in the morning and got up at 6 o'clock. I only slept for 3 hours in total. I was almost dying of sleep. Seeing Lucy Liu's resentful look, Cao Kun burst out laughing. I know you worked hard last night, but this is all for the sake of making money. If you think about the money, this little bit of tiredness is nothing, right? After hearing what Cao Kun said, Lucy Liu pursed her lips and smiled. That is true. The reason why I work so hard is to make money. Moreover, compared with the 360,000 yuan agency fee, this little bit of hard work is nothing. Not to mention staying up until 3 in the morning. Even if she was asked to stay up until 3 in the morning for a month, she would be willing to do so. That's right. Lucy Liu laughed and got into the car. Anyway, I'll take you to dinner first. After dinner, we'll go meet the first landlord. After saying that, Lucy Liu stepped on the accelerator and drove Cao Kun away directly. 9 o'clock in the morning. In the Yundong district of Haicheng, Cao Kun and Lucy Liu walked over to the window seat of a coffee shop. At this time, there was already a middle-aged man in his 40s waiting. He is the first landlord Cao Kun is going to meet today, Wang Jiahao. Wang Jiahao, a native of Guangdong province, invested in 8 houses here when the real estate business was booming a few years ago. When I bought it, it was 8,500 per square meter. I thought the price was low enough and I would definitely make a profit. Who would have thought that after a few years, the prices of the houses he bought not only did not increase, but instead dropped to 7,700 yuan per square meter. There are 8 apartments, and each one is a large apartment of about 130 to 140 square meters on average. The loss is 800 yuan per square meter, which means a loss of 800,000 to 900,000 yuan for 8 apartments. Seeing that it was unclear when the prices of houses in Yundong district would rise, Wang Jiahao decisively chose to cut his losses and leave. However, he wanted to cut his losses and leave decisively, but the market did not allow it. Because these 8 houses have been on sale at Lucy Liu's place for almost 3 months, and none of them have been sold. Because of this, Wang Jiahao's hair almost turned white due to worry. He is not a wealthy person from Guangdong province. If he cannot exchange the money, his capital chain will be broken. Once the capital chain is broken, there will be big problems. So, when Lucy Liu called him last night and said that someone wanted to buy his 8 houses, he took the train over there overnight. Chapter 15 8 houses obtained. Mr. Wang, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. Let me introduce you to Mr. Cao Kun Cao, whom I mentioned to you on the phone. Mr. Cao, this is the landlord of the 8 apartments, Mr. Wang Jiahao. As a middleman, Lucy Liu took the lead in introducing Cao Kun and Wang Jiahao to each other. Wang Jiahao was obviously more anxious than Cao Kun. After Liu Yuling finished her introduction, he enthusiastically grabbed his hand. Hello Mr. Cao, hello. I didn't expect that Mr. Cao is exactly like what manager Liu introduced on the phone. He is handsome, young and promising. Especially Mr. Cao, you are so handsome. If you were in our province, you would have at least a street of girlfriends. Hearing Wang Jiahao's flattery, Cao Kun burst into laughter. Mr. Wang, you are too kind. There are too many girlfriends on one street. My kidneys can't take it. Half a street is enough. The humorous answer immediately made Lucy Liu and Wang Jiahao laugh, and the atmosphere became much more harmonious. After the 3 of them sat down, Lucy Liu took the initiative to pour a cup of coffee for Cao Kun and Wang Jiahao respectively. Wang Jiahao was the first to speak. I heard from manager Liu that Mr. Cao plans to buy a batch of houses here. I would like to ask, has Mr. Cao heard any rumors? As a person who was able to buy 8 houses here a few years ago, Wang Jiahao must have a certain amount of wealth. And these people are usually not stupid. I can't say much about the situation in Yundong district, but it is definitely not suitable for real estate speculation in the next few years. However, Cao Kun chose to enter at this time, which made Wang Jiahao think more. Is it possible that he got some news and came here to speculate in real estate? When asked this by Wang Jiahao, Cao Kun showed a bitter smile on his face. Mr. Wang, you are joking. There is no rumor at all. I just don't know what to do. If there is a good investment project, who would still speculate in real estate these days. In the end, I am just taking a gamble. Having said that, Cao Kun held up 3 fingers in a serious manner and continued speaking. Mr. Wang, I won't hide it from you. I will give this place 3 years at most. If their housing prices here still don't look good after 3 years, no matter how much profit or loss I make, I will definitely leave decisively. Looking at Cao Kun's serious look, Wang Jiahao obviously took it seriously. He took a deep breath and said with emotion, "Yes, the overall economic environment is not good right now, and there are really no good investment projects." Finally, after a while of digressions and seeing that the atmosphere was right, Cao Kun directly turned the topic to the 8 apartments. "Mr. Wang, Manager Liu has already introduced the 8 apartments you have to me. To be honest, I am quite satisfied with them, but I still think the price is a bit high." Hearing this, Wang Jiahao looked bitter. "Mr. Cao, 7,700 per square meter, this price is really not high. I bought it at 8,500 per square meter back then. If I sell it to you now, I will lose 800 yuan per square meter." Cao Kun smiled and nodded. "Indeed, I understand your feelings, Mr. Wang, but Mr. Wang, this is not how the account is calculated. Although you bought it for 8,500 yuan, it is not worth that much money now, considering the market conditions in Yundong district. Moreover, the unit price of 7,700 yuan is indeed a bit high. If you don't believe me, ask Manager Liu to tell you. As it is a buyer's market, Lucy Liu, the intermediary, is definitely in cahoots with his buyer's father." Liu Yuling looked at Wang Jiahao and said with a bitter smile, "Mr. Wang, let me be fair. The unit price of 7,700 is really not low. Your 8 houses have been listed with me for 3 months. It's not that no one has asked about them during these 3 months, but once they heard the unit price of 7,700, no one responded." Hearing this, Wang Jiahao's face looked a little heavy. He frowned and looked at Cao Kun and said, "Mr. Cao, what do you think is a suitable unit price?" 7,500, Cao Kun said decisively. "If Mr. Wang is willing to sell at this price, I want all 8 houses. We can go to the real estate center to transfer the ownership today, and the money can be transferred to your account today." Originally, Wang Jiahao was a little hesitant about the unit price of 7,500, but when he heard Cao Kun say that the money would be in his account today, he immediately made a decision. Sold. There was no way. He really needed the money now. Besides, he had already paid 800 yuan per square meter, so it didn't matter if he had to pay 200 yuan more. "Okay." Wang Jiahao tapped the table and said, "Since Mr. Cao said so, then it's 7,500. However, I have a request. I want to transfer the ownership right now. Because I have something to do in Guangdong province, I have to go back quickly. Today is Friday. If I miss today, I will have to wait another 2 days to transfer the ownership. I don't have that much time to stay here." "No problem." Cao Kun smiled, "As long as Manager Liu has all the materials ready, I won't have any problem." "No problem, I have no problem either." Lucy Liu was so happy that she couldn't close her mouth. She patted her bag and said, "I have prepared all the materials. Let's go to the real estate center now. 8 suites. Moreover, each apartment is about 130 to 140 square meters. A rough calculation shows that the agency fee is at least 100,000. If Wang Jiahao hadn't been there, Lucy Liu would have been so excited that she would have ridden on Cao Kun and had a great time. Time flies, and it's already 4:30 in the afternoon. In front of the real estate center in Yundong district, Haicheng, Wang Jiahao took a taxi and left as Cao Kun and Lucy Liu saw him off. Finally done. Because each house needed to be transferred by a separate number, and one of the specialists at the real estate counter was sick and absent today, so the process was a bit slow, so it took a whole day to transfer all 8 houses. But fortunately, it's all done. Cao Kun spent a total of 8.1 million yuan on 8 houses, with each house priced at 7,500 yuan. On the other hand, Lucy Liu also received a 1.5% agency fee from Wang Jiahao. The total amount was more than 121,000 yuan, and she received the round number, 120,000 yuan. Seeing that Liu Yuling was so happy that she couldn't close her mouth, Cao Kun patted her hips and said, "Manager Liu, you made 120,000 yuan from just one order. Isn't it unreasonable not to treat us?" Lucy Liu looked at Cao Kun and said with a meaningful smile, "Why are you in such a hurry? It's not time for dinner yet." How about we go check out your 8 houses first? The houses have been transferred, but you haven't even seen what these 8 houses look like. It would be inappropriate not to go and take a look. Looking at Liu Yuling's meaningful expression, Cao Kun nodded seriously. That's right, let's go check out the house first. Half an hour later, Cao Kun and Lucy Liu arrived at the first house. It is a large 3-bedroom apartment. Because it was previously rented out to a young couple, it has some simple furniture and appliances. The master bedroom has a bed, mattress and air conditioning. There is a rice cooker in the kitchen. There is a water heater in the washroom. These were left behind when the young couple left. Finally, after walking around, the two came to the master bedroom again. Seeing Cao Kun reaching out to close the curtains and turn on the air conditioner, Lucy Liu seemed to know what was going to happen next. She bit her lip and smiled shyly, then locked the bedroom door. Chapter 16. Go home and settle accounts with the school beauty's family. Time flies, and 2 days have passed in the blink of an eye. 5 o'clock in the afternoon. As the door opened, Cao Kun and Liu Yuling came out. Since the two of them entered the room at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, they have not come out for 2 whole days. Except for the few times when the delivery man came and opened the door was kept closed the rest of the time. I still suggest you talk to them one by one. It's easier to lower the price if you talk to them one by one. If you talk to them all at once, there are too many of them and it will be difficult for you to lower the price. As Lucy Liu walked down the stairs, holding onto the wall, she looked back at Cao Kun. Huang Jiahao alone directly consumed 1/3 of the funds in Cao Kun's hands. However, there is only one person like Huang Jiahao. Among the landlords that Lucy Liu met next, each of them had at most 2 or 3 houses, and some even had only 1. In other words, Cao Kun will have to meet several or even more than 10 landlords before he can use all his money to buy a house. He felt it was too troublesome to meet them one by one, so he simply asked Lucy Liu to invite them together so that they could talk together. The price is 7,500. If you accept it, I'll sell it to you. If not, forget it. Anyway, Lucy Liu has other landlords who are waiting to sell their houses, so he is not worried about not being able to buy enough houses. Forget it. It's too much trouble to meet them one by one. Cao Kun shook his head. I only have 1 or 2 houses. If I meet and talk to them one by one, I don't know how much time it will take. I might as well do something fun with this time, right? As he spoke, Cao Kun winked at Lucy Liu. Seeing this, Lucy Liu burst out laughing. As she laughed, she rolled her eyes and said, really? It's endless. It's too difficult to make some agency fees from you. What? Cao Kun smiled and lit a cigarette, saying, what I mean is that if we have this much time, we might as well go to a nearby restaurant and look for something delicious. These past 2 days I've just been sitting at home eating takeout, and it's not fun at all. Profound. That's what I mean. Lucy Liu smiled a little embarrassedly and said, I do know some delicious food nearby. Let's talk about it after we finish talking. I'll take you there if I have time. Not long after, Cao Kun met the landlords who wanted to sell their houses. There are 9 landlords in total, owning 17 houses. However, unlike the house of 130 to 140 square meters owned by Huang Jiahao, these 17 houses are not that big. There are also houses of 130 to 140 square meters, but there are only 2 or 3 of them. Most of them are about 100 square meters or 80 or 90 square meters. When facing these 9 landlords, Cao Kun directly set a price of 7,500 yuan per square meter. If they were willing to sell, they could sell it. If they were not willing, he would not force them. In the end, only 6 landlords agreed to sell, while the remaining 3 landlords thought the price offered by Cao Kun was too low and wanted to wait and see the market conditions. After agreeing on the transfer time with the 6 landlords, Cao Kun and Liu Yuling had a quick bite to eat outside and then returned to the apartment under his name. Time goes by day by day. Under Lucy Liu's arrangement, everything was going on in an orderly manner. On Monday, I was doing the property transfer at the real estate center. I spent the whole day there and had dinner and slept with Lucy Liu in the evening. On Tuesday, I transferred the property at the real estate center in the morning, met the landlord in the afternoon, and then went shopping, ate, and slept with Lucy Liu. On Wednesday, I transferred the property at the real estate center in the morning, met the landlord in the afternoon, and had dinner and slept with Lucy Liu. On Thursday, the property transfer took place at the real estate center, and I had dinner and slept with Lucy Liu. The reason why Cao Kun did not see the landlord again on Thursday was that he finally used all the money he had to buy a house on that day. However, he did not spend all of the 24 million he had. In the end, he only spent 23.8 million, leaving 200,000 left. The remaining 200,000 is obviously not enough to buy a house, so this is all we can do. Friday, didn't he go out? Didn't he go out on Saturday? Sunday afternoon, 3 o'clock. It was only at this time that Cao Kun and Liu Yuling, who had not gone out for 3 days, came out of the house. She had no choice but to come out. Lucy Liu's husband would be back tonight and would arrive home around 8 p.m. If he found out that she was not at home, he would definitely become suspicious. Cao Kun considers himself to be a relatively moral and well-educated person, and he would definitely not do something that would destroy other people's families. So, I decided to end it. Just like last time, Lucy Liu held her bag in her right hand, held the wall with her left hand, and walked very carefully step by step. Cao Kun, on the other hand, is even more vigorous and energetic. 10 minutes later. In front of the community, Cao Kun watched Lucy Liu drive away. After Lucy Liu left, Cao Kun did not stay here any longer. He took a taxi and left. The Yundong district matter is settled, and it's time for him to do other things. For example, revenge on Wang Shanshan's family of 3. If the situation in Yundong district had not been more urgent, he would have already started his revenge on Wang Shanshan and her family of 3. It was Yundong district that allowed Wang Shanshan and her family to spend a few more days in peace. Now that the matter in Yundong district has been resolved, it is time for Wang Shanshan's family to make a mess. However, before leaving Haicheng, Cao Kun still had one thing to do. Go rent a house near Haicheng University. There is only about half a month left before Haicheng University starts. Whether it is to make up for the regret of not being able to go to university in his previous life or to fulfill his grandfather's long-cherished wish, he will definitely come to school. Of course, he definitely wouldn't live in the school dormitory. It's not that he is not sociable, but that he has listed the 72-style glutton as a secret that cannot be passed on to others. Living in the dormitory, not to mention the inconvenience for him to practice the 72-style lunch bucket, he couldn't tolerate the fact that it would be easily leaked. Chapter 17, Night Talk at the Cemetery. The rental process went smoothly. Thanks to the fact that it is summer vacation now, there are still plenty of houses available, and Cao Kun managed to get it done in less than an hour. It is a house only a 10-minute walk from Haicheng University. It has 4 bedrooms, 2 living rooms and 2 bathrooms, and is fully equipped with home appliances and furniture. You can move in at any time. With the housing rental issue resolved, Haicheng's affairs officially came to an end, and Cao Kun then took a taxi to their high-speed railway station. It's 11:30 at night. In Shire County, at the exit of their high-speed railway station, Cao Kun walked out alone with a bag on his back. As a small county, Shire County's population flow is definitely not comparable to that of first-tier cities like Haicheng. In addition, it was already late at night and few passengers chose to go out, so he was the only one who got off the train during this stop. It was as if the entire high-speed railway station was built for him. After coming out of the station, he saw only 2 or 3 taxis parked outside, and he walked towards one of them. "Where are you going, handsome?" The driver who was smoking outside saw Cao Kun and hurried in front of him to help open the passenger door. "Go to the cemetery in the south of the city." Seeing the driver smoking, Cao Kun also felt a little craving for cigarette, so he lit up a cigarette while standing at the door of the car. When the driver heard Cao Kun say that they were going to the South City Cemetery, he stopped smoking. "Going to the cemetery late at night? Why do I feel so uncomfortable?" Seeing the driver was a little dazed, Cao Kun smiled and said, "Go and pay respect to my grandfather." "Why, you don't dare to go." The driver came to his senses and said with a smile, "Why would we be afraid to go? I mean, it's the middle of the night, it must be no problem. Let's go, get in the car." Half an hour later. The driver stopped the car in front of the South City Cemetery. "Do I need to wait for you?" The South City Cemetery is located in the southern suburbs of Shire County. There is nothing around this place except for this cemetery, so there are not many cars coming here even during the day, let alone at night. If the driver hadn't been waiting here, Cao Kun would definitely not be able to get a second car tonight. Facing the driver's kindness, Cao Kun smiled and shook his head, "No need, master. I haven't talked to my grandfather for a long time. Maybe I need to talk more. You go first." After saying that, Cao Kun stood up and got out of the car. Seeing this, the driver didn't say anything else. He turned around on the spot and returned directly to the city. After the driver drove away, Cao Kun turned around and looked at the South City Cemetery behind him. Because it is just a cemetery in a small county town, it is very simple. There was even no one guarding the cemetery at night. Facing the cemetery gate that was more than 2 meters high, Cao Kun took a running start, then suddenly jumped high, stretched out his hand and pushed it, then flipped directly over the cemetery gate. Fortunately, there is no one guarding the cemetery now, otherwise, seeing this scene, people would definitely think they saw a ghost. After Cao Kun landed, he was also shocked by his own action. He felt that he should be able to jump over like this, but he didn't expect it to be so easy. Obviously, his current physical fitness is stronger than he expected. Thinking of this, a figure flashed through Cao Kun's mind. Yang. Damn it, if that bastard Yang had told me all the 72 styles of the glutton in his previous life, I wouldn't have had to spend 10 years in jail and would have jumped out of prison long ago. After talking to himself, Cao Kun seemed to have thought of something and smiled and shook his head. Never mind. Yang really can't be blamed for this. Because it's not that he doesn't want to teach, but that he himself doesn't know how to do it. Although the nameless book had always been in his hands, he had obviously only learned the first part and had not learned the whole thing. It's like having a treasure mountain but not being able to enter the gate. Maybe this is just because he is not destined to be together. Thinking about this in his mind, Cao Kun soon arrived at the northeast corner of the cemetery. Looking at the short grave in front of him, his eyes unconsciously became moist. If there is anyone in this world who is really good to him, then apart from his deceased grandfather, Cao Kun really can't think of anyone else. The biggest wish of this old man who has lived a frugal and simple life is that his grandson can live a peaceful life. However, such a simple wish was ultimately unfulfilled. Not only that, his own grave was also dug up by others, and his ashes were scattered, ultimately resulting in no trace of his body left. Every time he thought of this, Cao Kun wanted to kill someone. If you are angry or upset, just take it out on him. What's the big deal about digging an old man's grave? The person is already dead and has turned into ashes, why can't we let him go? Recalling the scenes of his previous life, Cao Kun gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and knelt down in front of the grave with a plop. After taking a deep breath, he took out some offerings such as roast chicken and roast duck from his backpack while talking to himself. Grandpa, I'm sorry. In the last life, your grandson was an idiot. Not only was he thrown into prison, but your grave was also dug up and your ashes were scattered. But don't worry, your grandson will never do such a stupid thing again in his life. As for those who bullied us in the previous life, I will settle accounts with them one by one. Don't worry, I will remember them all, and none of them can escape. After saying these words, Cao Kun felt as if a breath of anger had been released from his heart, and he immediately felt a lot more relaxed. Next, he sat in front of the grave, smoking, drinking, and eating offerings while talking about his past life. Old man, it's not that your grandson doesn't want to go to college. It's that your grandson was framed and thrown into prison. You still remember Wang Shanshan, the girl you said was really pretty. She also said that if I could marry her, I must have done good deeds in my previous life. I did good deeds for her grandmother. You don't know how despicable her family of 3 is. Her mother was about to be raped, and I bravely saved her mother. As a result, the 3 of them turned against me and framed me as a murderer. Old man, please judge, is this something a human being can do? You are worse than pigs and dogs. You know your grandson's appearance, he has 3-dimensional features, he is tall, handsome, and fair-skinned. So, when your grandson first arrived at the prison, I'm not exaggerating at all, at least half of the prisoners wanted to have anal sex with your grandson. Just like that, I squeezed his balls so hard that they burst, and I turned that guy into a woman. From then on, no one wanted to anally fuck your grandson anymore. You know, superheroes have one more thing than normal people. Forget it, you won't understand even if I tell you. You just need to know that they have stronger sexual desires, are more violent, and have greater strength than ordinary people. They are just like crazy people. Of course, not all superheroes are crazy, but the superheroes who can enter our prison for serious criminals are definitely crazier than the other. There were more than a dozen superheroes in our prison at the beginning. Every day was so lively. There was no day without fighting and bloodshed. I especially remember a superhero named Wang Haoren, who was a beast. He hung his father up and beat him, and made his father watch him rape his mother. This guy died a very tragic death. He was killed by another superhero. When he was found, his entire body was almost cut in half vertically. Chapter 18 Editing Video. It had been 10 years since Cao Kun had come to pay homage to his grandfather. He had a lot to say. He just sat there and started talking. Before he knew it, the eastern sky had turned white. After finishing the last sip of wine, Cao Kun looked at the cigarette butt scattered on the ground and the tribute that he had eaten clean, and grinned. You were so happy talking that I unknowingly finished eating the tribute I brought for you. Next time, I'll get you something better. After saying that, Cao Kun stood up and continued speaking. Grandpa, I have told you so much. Actually, I came here just to tell you, don't worry, your grandson will definitely live a peaceful and happy life. As for the delicious food and the many wives and concubines, that's all out of the question. Just wait and see how your grandson performs. Now I'm leaving. Don't worry about me. I'll come to see you next time. After saying that, Cao Kun smiled brilliantly at the grave, waved his hand, and then left towards the whitening sky in the east. 5 o'clock in the afternoon. In the old room, Cao Kun came out of the bedroom naked and went to the washroom. Because he didn't get much rest during those few days in Haicheng, and he stayed up all night last night, so after returning from the cemetery, he first had a good sleep. More than 10 minutes later. After finishing washing, Cao Kun came to the floor-to-ceiling mirror in the living room. Looking at himself in the mirror, his body looked like it was sculptured, with sharp edges and every muscle sticking out. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise. I have to say, the effect of the Fan Tong 72 style is really awesome. In just a few days, his physical condition has already caught up with that of his previous life. Even more explosive and handsome than in the previous life. After all, he didn't have those ugly scars on his body now. It is white, clean, and full of masculine beauty of strength, especially those 8 well-proportioned abdominal muscles, which look very explosive at first glance. Cao Kun looked at his body habitually, smiled, then returned to the bedroom and turned on the computer. I have bought a house in Yundong district, paid my respects to my grandfather, gotten some sleep, and regained my spirits. It would be unreasonable if I don't take revenge next. After the computer was completely turned on, Cao Kun skillfully opened the C drive and directly clicked on a video. At the beginning of the video, in a dim alley, a young woman with a graceful figure was quickly dragged into by 3 thugs. It was a video of Wang Shanshan's mother Bai Jing being bullied by 3 thugs. Because he was in a hurry to deal with matters in Yundong district, Cao Kun had not watched the video carefully after taking it that night. Not long after watching the video, Cao Kun had an idea. Although Bai Jing was forced, this coercion did not run through the entire video. If you remove the front and back parts and only leave the middle part, then it will be like in cheating video. Cao Kun raised his lips and murmured, "My dear Uncle Wang, I hope you like it." After saying that, Cao Kun opened the video editing software and started operating it directly. Soon, in just a few minutes, Cao Kun completed the video editing. After checking the video twice to make sure there were no problems, Cao Kun copied it directly to a USB drive. At this moment, a call suddenly came to his cell phone. Caller ID, Sun Wei. When he saw this name, Cao Kun's eyes narrowed. At the same time, a hint of murderous intent emerged. Chapter 19 Do you really know what kind of person your wife is? If you ask Cao Kun who he most wants to take revenge on, well, the best ones must be Wang Shanshan and her family of 3. Because, if it weren't for Wang Shanshan and her family of 3, he wouldn't have been charged with murder and imprisoned in prison for 10 years in his previous life. Apart from Wang Shanshan's family of 3, Sun Wei, who called at this time, could definitely be ranked in the 2nd tier. It is even possible to enter the 1st echelon. Sun Wei was Cao Kun's classmate for 3 years in high school. During those 3 years, the two stayed up all night together, studied together, watched movies together, smoked and drank together. It is no exaggeration to say that they were best brothers. However, after he was wrongly imprisoned, his best brother not only did not visit him once in prison, but also spoke ill of him everywhere and was eager to distance himself from him. If it were just that, Cao Kun would just let it go. After all, murderers do have a bad reputation. If anyone knows that someone is a good friend of a murderer, they will subconsciously label this person as not a good person. Therefore, if Sun Wei was just slandering him, saying bad things about him, and trying to distance himself from him, Cao Kun could understand and would not blame him. However, Sun Wei should never have done that. In his rush to distance himself from their good brother relationship, he and his other good brother dug up his grandfather's grave and scattered his grandfather's ashes. For Cao Kun, his grandfather is the only relative he has in his life. Originally, Cao Kun felt very regretful that his old man could not live to see him fulfill his filial duties. However, Sun Wei and his other brother caused the old man to end up in ruins. Cao Kun could not tolerate this at all. It would be fine if he failed to respect his grandfather properly, but he couldn't even bury him in peace. What was the point of his raising him as his grandson? Might as well get a dog. It was because he didn't have the opportunity in his previous life, otherwise, he would have twisted the heads off Sun Wei and his other good brother long ago. Thinking about this, Cao Kun looked at the phone that was ringing non-stop on the computer desk and picked it up. Hello. The gloom on his face disappeared, and Cao Kun instantly changed his expression to a cheerful one. What's wrong, Sun Wei? Brother Kun, what are you busy with? Sun Wei seemed to be chewing something, and his voice was a little unclear. I didn't do anything. Cao Kun said, I read novels all night last night and went to bed at around 7 in the morning. As a result, I slept until now and just woke up. Oh my god, Brother Kun, you've been a bit too indulgent on this holiday. Sun Wei said with a smile, you've slept until now. Come play cards. We're short one. If Sun Wei has any hobby, it is definitely playing cards. No matter whether it is Landlord, Pai Gao, or Golden Flower, he is addicted to every one of them. He can even play all night long. If there was a little more luck, he wouldn't even eat. For this reason, Cao Kun once commented on him, saying that he was like a possessed person when he saw the cards. And it was in this short moment that Cao Kun thought of a way to deal with Sun Wei. No way. His weakness is too obvious. However, the timing is not right now and we need to wait for a while. Thinking about this, Cao Kun smiled and said, what cards are you playing? You know, I don't know how to play. Besides, I still have to read novels. Don't. Sun Wei pleaded, Brother Kun, just come and play for a while. What's the point of reading novels? It doesn't matter if you don't know how to do it. Just come and join in the fun. It's not like you're playing for money. No. Cao Kun refused, I'm almost dying of sleep. I have to go back to sleep later. Seeing that Cao Kun was determined not to come, Sun Wei had no choice but to give up and said, okay, then I'll see if anyone else comes. After saying that, the phone was hung up. As Cao Kun looked at the hung-up phone, a sneer unconsciously appeared on his face. My dear brother, cherish your few happy days. Soon, you will no longer be happy. 8:30 p.m. In Shire County, on the snack street in the northern part of the city, Cao Kun walked over to a crowded stall selling snacks. At this time, a man in his 30s was about to pay the bill. He pulled his phone out of his pocket and started unlocking it with his fingerprint. However, he didn't know if it was because of the oil on his hands or the screen was not working properly, but he pressed it several times without success to unlock the fingerprint, so he simply switched to entering the password 020304. After unlocking his phone, he opened WeChat and scanned the code to pay, completing the transaction. The whole process went smoothly except for a few minor issues when turning on the phone. Pay, take your stuff, and leave. However, the man did not notice that when he was leaving, a boy who was slightly taller than him passed by him. 5 minutes later, Cao Kun walked out of the snack street. When they arrived at a deserted place, he reached into his pocket and took out a cell phone. It turned out to be the cell phone of the man in his 30s who was in front of the snack stand just now. Cao Kun's 10 years in prison were not in vain. Petty theft techniques like these are basic skills for him. No way. There are so many people in prison who are good at this, and I learned it without realizing it. After Cao Kun entered the 6-digit password 020304, he successfully opened the phone. Without checking his phone to see if there were any shameful photos or videos, he simply opened WeChat, chose to add a friend, and entered a phone number. It is the mobile phone number of Wang Shanshan's father, Wang Yifu. As a big bootlicker who has been licking Wang Shanshan for 3 years, Cao Kun not only has Wang Shanshan's mobile phone number and WeChat, but also her parents' mobile phone numbers and WeChat. Therefore, if he wanted to send a video to Wang Yifu, it would be very simple. He could just send it to his friend via WeChat. However, this would expose him. Therefore, he needed a signal of authority that Wang Yifu would not know about. He even made a special note to ensure that Wang Yifu's friend request would be accepted. Wang Yifu, add me, it's urgent. Just 3 minutes after Cao Kun sent his friend request, a notification popped up on WeChat that his friend request was approved. Along with this, there was also a prestigious message sent by Wang Yifu. Wang Yifu, who are you? Wang Yifu, what is the urgent matter? Looking at the message sent by Wang Yifu, the corners of Cao Kun's mouth suddenly raised. He first transferred the edited video on his mobile phone to this phone via Bluetooth, and then replied. It doesn't matter who I am. What matters is, do you really know what kind of person your wife is? Thanks to the fact that he had licked Wang Shanshan for 3 years, Cao Kun knew Wang Yifu quite well. Wang Yifu is a very chauvinistic man, and he is also very suspicious. Even Bai Jing had a well-paid job before, but she was forced to quit by him because she had to travel occasionally. Because whenever Bai Jing went on a business trip, Wang Yifu suspected that she was having an affair with other men. Therefore, Cao Kun was very sure that as soon as he sent this message, Wang Yifu would definitely take the bait. Chapter 20, 2 Women and 1 Man, Chaos. As expected. As soon as Cao Kun sent the message, Wang Yifu replied immediately. Wang Yifu, who are you? Wang Yifu, also, I know my wife better than you do. Don't think I will fall for your tricks just because you say a few provocative words. We have a very good relationship. Facing Wang Yifu's reply, Cao Kun could no longer suppress the smile. Well said. How dare a man who is so worried about his wife going on a business trip that he forces her to quit her job say such things? Of all the people in my body, my mouth is probably the toughest. After joking in his heart, Cao Kun replied directly. TSK, you are such a pitiful man. To be honest, I can't bear to let you see the cruel reality. Wang Yifu, what a cruel reality. Stop pretending. I absolutely believe in my wife. Cao Kun, har, you are so naive and cute even at such an old age. Well, since you trust your wife so much, I want to show you the exciting video of your wife being ridden by other men. Bye. Almost as soon as Cao Kun sent the message, Wang Yifu replied immediately. Wang Yifu, wait a minute, you can't just walk away like this. Wang Yifu, what about the video of being ridden by another man? You must explain it clearly. Wang Yifu, I'm telling you, that's definitely not my wife. At most, it's someone who looks like my wife. Please send the video to me so I can see it. After seeing the 3 messages sent by Wang Yifu, Cao Kun seemed unable to hold back any longer and burst into grinning. This is what he believes. You say you believe, but your actions are full of doubt. Cao Kun didn't say anything more to Wang Yifu. He just sent the video to him and attached a message. I bet your wife was never this happy when she was with you. Along with sending this message, Cao Kun directly deleted the 2 people as friends and deleted the videos in his mobile phone at the same time. Then, he twisted it hard, and with a crackling sound, the phone was twisted into pieces like a twisted dough stick, breaking into several sections. Finally, Cao Kun threw the scrapped mobile phone into the trash can and left leisurely as if nothing had happened. At the same time, in the bathroom of a residential community in Shi County, Wang Yifu, who was sitting on the toilet, watched the video playing on his mobile phone. His fists clenched tighter and tighter, and even the veins on his forehead bulged. He originally thought that at most it would be someone who looked similar to his wife. However, the moment he opened the video, his heart sank to the bottom. They are already an old couple, and Wang Yifu is very familiar with Bai Jing's body. No matter the appearance of the woman in the video or some characteristics of other parts of her body, they are exactly the same as Bai Jing. Even her intoxicated expression and the sounds she made in the video were exactly the same as Bai Jing's. So, this is clearly Bai Jing. I didn't expect that my wife, who I had slept with for so many years, would cheat on me, and she was doing it with 3 men at the same time. Bitch. Bitch. Slut. As the 11-minute video came to an end, Wang Yifu could no longer suppress the anger of betrayal in his heart. He even forgot to wipe his PG. He pulled up his boxer briefs and rushed out like a mad dog. In the living room, Bai Jing and Wang Shanshan were sitting cozily on the sofa, watching TV. When Bai Jing saw Wang Yifu suddenly coming out of the bathroom, her brows furrowed. She was just about to tell Wang Yifu to be careful about his influence and not wear only boxer briefs in front of their daughter, but before she could open her mouth, Wang Yifu pounced on her. "You bitch, I'm going to beat you to death." Without any explanation, a slap hit Bai Jing on the face, knocking her unconscious. Before Bai Jing could come to her senses, Wang Yifu grabbed her hair and started attacking her left and right. "What the hell, you bastard, you can't live without a man, right? Draft? Why are you so cheap?" The sound of slapping, Wang Yifu's angry curses, and Bai Jing's screams made Wang Shanshan, who had never seen such a scene, stunned for a moment. When she came to her senses, Wang Shanshan burst into tears and rushed over to beat Wang Yifu. "Dad, you're crazy, what are you doing? Let go of my mom." How could two women possibly deal with a man when he's angry? Wang Shanshan's joining not only failed to sober up Wang Yifu, but made him even angrier. "I work hard to earn money to support our family, but your mother is committing adultery with another man behind my back, and you are still helping your mother. You are such an ungrateful person." Wang Yifu kicked Wang Shanshan in the stomach, sending her 2 meters away and causing her to roll twice on the ground. On the other side, Bai Jing, who had been being beaten, saw her daughter being kicked out. Her motherly nature broke out, and she screamed and scratched Wang Yifu's face with her nails. Bloody scars appeared on Wang Yifu's face in an instant. Seeing her mother and father fighting each other, Wang Shanshan was at a loss and burst into tears while taking out her cell phone and dialing 110. "Hello, is this 110? My dad wants to kill my mom. Please come quickly. The address is in the garden community." After the call was hung up, Wang Shanshan saw her mother being pinned to the ground and beaten by her father again. She screamed, picked up the TV on the TV cabinet, and smashed it hard on his head. Bang! The LCD screen shattered instantly, but unfortunately, the force was too small to knock Wang Yifu unconscious. Wang Yifu, with a piece of liquid crystal fragment stuck in his forehead, slowly looked at Wang Shanshan with bloodshot eyes, like a man-eating beast. "I worked so hard to raise you, and you dare to hit me." The next second, he left Bai Jing behind, took 2 steps to Wang Shanshan, and slapped her in the face. "You are an ungrateful bastard. I have raised you in vain." The beating of her daughter once again stimulated the potential in Bai Jing. She rushed over with a roar, hugged Wang Yifu's legs and bit him. "Arr!" Wang Yifu screamed, and without caring about Wang Shanshan, he raised his legs to break free. Bai Jing almost bit off a large piece of flesh from the back of her calf. Seeing this, Wang Yifu became even angrier. He raised his leg and kicked Bai Jing in the head. And after being slapped by Wang Yifu, Wang Shanshan also gave up. "Damn! Go to hell! This life is unbearable." She picked up the ornamental bottles and wine bottles on the wine cabinet in the living room and threw them all at Wang Yifu. 5 minutes later, a police car stopped downstairs. Because Wang Shanshan's residential area was not far from the street police station, and she reported a murder case, the police arrived quickly. 3 policemen got out of the car and went upstairs quickly. When they arrived at Wang Shanshan's house, they were all shocked by the scene before them. The ground is a mess. The coffee table was broken, the TV was smashed, the TV cabinet was smashed, there were glass fragments everywhere, the air was filled with a strong smell of alcohol, and blood was everywhere. At this moment, on the ground, 3 figures were hugging each other, rolling and beating each other. Chapter 21, Joining Cao Kun. Looking at the 3 people wrestling with each other, the 3 policemen naturally did not let their fight continue. The 3 policemen acted together, each controlling one person, and they separated Wang Shanshan, Bai Jing and Wang Yifu. Wang Yifu was still furious. Even though they had been separated by the police, he still cursed at Bai Jing with red eyes. "You slut, bitch, I've been working like a dog to support this family for so many years, and this is how you treat me. I'll fuck your whole family." Although Bai Jing couldn't beat Wang Yifu, she was also furious after this battle. Moreover, after this battle, she no longer had the idea of continuing to live with Wang Yifu. "So, I have nothing to worry about anymore. You are a piece of trash, you still dare to say that." Bai Jing cursed back at Wang Yifu, "You only fight for such a small amount of money every month. Beggars fight for more than you. You are not good in bed, and you are not good at making money. I have never seen a man as useless as you. What kind of man are you? Be a dog." On the other side, Wang Shanshan cried even louder when she saw her parents cursing at each other even after being forcibly separated. What is going on? How could such loving parents and such a harmonious family suddenly become like this? When the three policemen saw this situation, they obviously knew that this was not something that could be mediated on the spot, so they immediately took the three people back to the police station. Since the three of them were together, to be exact, Wang Yifu and Bai Jing were together, they kept swearing at each other and it was impossible to mediate. There was no other way and the police could only separate them for mediation. Wang Yifu lives in one room, Bai Jing and Wang Shanshan live in another room. After a simple investigation, the police easily discovered the source of the family conflict. Wang Yifu. According to Bai Jing and Wang Shanshan, the two were watching a movie on the sofa at the time. As a result, Wang Yifu rushed out like a mad dog and started attacking them without any reason at all. Even until now, neither of them knew what Wang Yifu was crazy about. After finding out the source of the family conflict, the police then began to understand the situation from Wang Yifu in order to trace the source and resolve the conflict from the source. As a result, Wang Yifu refused to listen. No matter how the police asked, he just wouldn't say why he did it. He just kept calling Bai Jing a slut, a bitch, and a bitch. Based on Wang Yifu's behavior, the police obviously realized that Bai Jing must have done something that made Wang Yifu so angry, so they turned around and asked Bai Jing if she had done anything to offend Wang Yifu. When asked this by the police, Bai Jing thought about the incident when she was raped by three thugs some time ago. However, it only flashed through her mind and then passed. Because she didn't think it had anything to do with the matter. There were only 4 of them that night, and there was no surveillance. Moreover, the 3 thugs raped her and then left. They didn't take any photos or videos, so Wang Yifu couldn't have known about it. Besides, even if Wang Yifu knew, he would never beat himself like this. Since he knew it, he should understand that he was forced at that time. Shouldn't he comfort himself instead? How could one know that his wife was raped, and their husband not only did not comfort her, but beat her to death? Doesn't this mean they are in cahoots with the rape perpetrators? Therefore, she was very sure in her heart that it had absolutely nothing to do with this matter. Therefore, he denied the police's speculation out of hand. She, Bai Jing, did not do anything to let Wang Yifu down. Wang Yifu was going mad. In this way, the mediation came to a stalemate and was not completed until late at night. In the end, the police could only let Wang Shanshan and Bai Jing leave first. As for Wang Yifu, he definitely cannot be put together. Judging from the way he is still furious now, if he is let go, he will definitely continue fighting with Bai Jing. As the source of this conflict, he had to stay in the police station for mediation. 1 o'clock in the morning. At the gate of Shire County Public Security Bureau, Wang Shanshan, who was supported by her mother Bai Jing, came out. The night breeze blew and she couldn't help crying again. Even when she looked around, she didn't know where else to go. Go home? Is that still a home? What if Wang Yifu was also released? Wouldn't she and her mother be caught in a jar? But, where else can I go except home? At this moment, not to mention Wang Shanshan's hesitation, even Bai Jing's eyes were blank. Although she never backed down, there was one fact that could not be changed. That is, she really couldn't beat Wang Yifu. Therefore, she was also worried that if Wang Yifu also came home after she returned home, she would be beaten again by Wang Yifu. This bastard is really cruel. He used much more force than when he fucked her. If she were beaten again, she didn't know if she could hold on. But where else can I go if not home? Hotel? Just when the mother and daughter were a little hesitant, suddenly, Wang Shanshan seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly said, "Oh, Mom, how about we go to my classmate's house and stay for a while? I'm a little scared to go home now." Go to Wang Shanshan's classmate's house. Bai Jing frowned slightly and said hesitantly, "It's not appropriate. You can be alone, but I'll go with you, your parents will definitely not agree." "Mom, let's go to Cao Kun's house." Wang Shan raised the corners of her swollen mouth and said, "You forgot that he is the only one at home." "Oh, you're bootlicker, right?" Bai Jing's eyes immediately lit up a lot. "Yes." Wang Shanshan said with some pride, "It's the dog who licked me for 3 years, bought me breakfast for 3 years, and bought me clothes and cosmetics for 3 years. If I say I want to stay at his house for a while, he will jump for joy." Seeing Wang Shanshan's smug expression, Bai Jing thought for a moment and nodded, "Okay, then you give him a try. Also, you can let him have a taste of something sweet when the time is right. This way, he will be even more devoted to being your licking dog." Wang Shanshan grinned and said, "Don't worry, Mom. I know what I'm doing. When it's time to give you a sweet treat, I'll give it to you." As she spoke, Wang Shanshan took out her cell phone and called Cao Kun directly. At the same time, in the living room of the old house, Cao Kun had just finished practicing the last round of the 72-style rice bucket. Just as he wiped the sweat off his body and was about to go to the bathroom to take a shower and go to bed, suddenly, his cell phone rang. Goddess. Seeing the name on the caller ID was Goddess, Cao Kun was confused at first, but then he reacted. "It's Wang Shanshan. I almost forgot that he is still Wang Shanshan's #1 bootlicker." Cao Kun didn't expect Wang Shanshan to call him late at night, and the corners of his mouth suddenly raised. Because he knew without thinking that something must have happened in her family. Moreover, what happened was quite serious, otherwise, Wang Shanshan would never have called him now. It seems that Wang Yifu is even more powerful than he imagined. With this thought in mind, Cao Kun picked up the phone directly and spoke in a gentle tone. "Hey, Shanshan, what's wrong? Why aren't you asleep yet so late?" Wang Shanshan's voice was a little choked up, and she cried, "Cao Kun, please come and pick me up. My mother and I have nowhere to go." Hearing this, Cao Kun was stunned at first, and then he grinned. "Oh shit. Has it come to this? Do you want to take Bai Jing to your home for refuge? It's really like there's a road to heaven but you don't take it, there's no door to hell but you come to it anyway." Cao Kun suppressed the corners of his mouth that were about to turn up, and asked anxiously, "What? Nowhere to go? What's going on? Where are you now? Don't ask us yet. We are at the door of the police station. Please come and pick us up." "Okay, wait for me, I'll pick you up right away." Chapter 22. Hitting people is definitely not okay. Half an hour later, a taxi stopped in front of the police station. Cao Kun got out of the car and came to Bai Jing and Wang Shanshan in 2 steps. Looking at the two people at this moment, he almost couldn't help laughing. At this time, Bai Jing's hair was messy, her cheeks were red and swollen, there were obvious bruises and blood marks at the corners of her mouth, and her eye sockets were also blue. Wang Shanshan was better, but her hair was also messy and her cheeks were obviously red and swollen. However, she was much better than Bai Jing. And these are just what we can see intuitively, there are also things that we cannot see. Judging from the way Wang Shanshan and Bai Jing walked and the way they supported each other, it was not difficult to see that both of them had quite a few injuries. "Shanshan, Aunt Bai, what is going on? Who hit you?" Cao Kun's face was filled with shock and concern, just like a bootlicker. "Don't ask me now." Wang Shanshan pouted and said as if she was about to cry, "Let us stay at your house first. We are in pain all over now." Okay, I'll help you get in the car first." More than 20 minutes later, Cao Kun supported Bai Jing and Wang Shanshan and came to his residence. As if to show his courtesy, he first helped them clean up the room, then boiled water for them to take a bath, and even asked the errand boy to bring them some medicine for bruises and injuries. And under Cao Kun's hospitality, Wang Shanshan finally revealed some information. Her mother Bai Jing and her father Wang Yifu had a fight, and she stood on her mother's side and was beaten up too. In fact, even if Wang Shanshan didn't say it, Cao Kun knew that the two were beaten by Wang Yifu. After all, based on his understanding of Wang Yifu, it was impossible for Wang Yifu to hold back after watching that video. However, he didn't expect the effect to be so good. Wang Yifu didn't even confront Bai Jing, but started to take action directly. This reckless man, well done. After realizing that this was a family conflict, Cao Kun naturally could not express too many of his own opinions. After all, on one side is Wang Shanshan's mother, and on the other side is Wang Shanshan's father. As a licker of Wang Shanshan, he must not offend both sides. So, in the end, he just tried to smooth things over. He said that he would definitely try his best to help Wang Shanshan so that her parents could resolve the misunderstanding and reconcile. At the same time, he also expressed that Bai Jing and Wang Shanshan could live here without worry. It didn't matter how long they stayed, as he would cover all their food and drink. In this way, it was not until after 2 in the morning that Cao Kun returned to the bedroom, leaving the space for Wang Shanshan and Bai Jing, allowing the mother and daughter to take a bath and apply medicine. Time flies and a night has passed in the blink of an eye. Wang Yifu, who had stayed in the police station all night, seemed to have calmed down and was no longer as angry. His face just looked a little tired and haggard. Suddenly, the door of the room opened and the policeman who was responsible for mediating their family conflicts came in again. Seeing Wang Yifu's haggard appearance, he handed him a cigarette. Wang Yifu did not refuse. He reached out to take it and put it into his mouth. Seeing this, the policeman took out a lighter to help him light it, and then lit one for himself, saying earnestly, "Wang Yifu, it's been a whole night, what are you thinking?" "I still say the same thing. No matter what grievances or anger you have to speak out first. Only in this way can we help you. But, if you don't say anything, how can we help you? Besides, how can we let you go if you don't say anything?" Wang Yifu frowned, exhaled a puff of smoke and said, "No, why can't you let me go? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with you? You hit someone," the police officer said rudely. "Wang Yifu, don't think that beating your wife is your family affair. With your current attitude, we still suspect that you might cause harm to your wife. This alone is sufficient reason to keep you in prison. So, if you have something on your mind, you need to speak up. If you don't, how can we deal with it?" Not knowing whether he wanted to go out or solve the problem, Wang Yifu took 2 puffs of his cigarette, and finally let out a long breath, saying, "Actually, it's not that I don't want to say it, but it's too damn embarrassing, I really can't say it." Hearing this, the police perked up. There's hope. He sat next to Wang Yifu and said in a gentle voice, "If you ask me, you should just think too much. What kind of place is this? This is the police station. It's a place to solve problems. Who cares if you embarrass yourself or not? Even if you feel embarrassed, you still have to say it. We have to solve the problem." As if persuaded by the police, Wang Yifu was silent for a few seconds, then said, "Bai Jing cheated." "What?" The policeman narrowed his eyes and asked, "Is your wife cheating on you?" Wang Yifu nodded heavily. "I really don't want to say it, damn, it's too embarrassing, this bitch, you don't know how cheap she is, she cheated on me with other men, or with 3 men at the same time. Police comrade, do you think I was wrong to beat her up? I've already shown mercy to a bitch like her by not beating her to death." Looking at Wang Yifu's angry expression, the policeman couldn't help but recall the scene of interrogating Bai Jing. He asked Bai Jing this question, asking her if she had done anything to let Wang Yifu down. Bai Jing's answer at that time was very affirmative, and she had never done anything to let Wang Yifu down. So, one of them lied. But who is lying? It's really hard to tell. Because, whether it was Bai Jing or Wang Yifu, based on their expressions, eyes, and tone, it sounded very much like they were telling the truth. The policeman asked tentatively, "Wang Yifu, are you sure your wife is cheating on you? Is there any misunderstanding?" "Misunderstanding?" Wang Yifu sneered, took out his phone and threw it on the table. "There's already a video, how can there be a misunderstanding?" As he spoke, Wang Yifu turned on the video on his mobile phone and pushed it directly in front of the police. The policeman did not watch it carefully, but watched it by following the progress bar. He only watched 1 minute of the 11-minute video. Finally, a conclusion was reached. Bai Jing really cheated. Moreover, she is so horny, she is with 3 men at the same time. Seeing the police handing him the phone, Wang Yifu took a deep puff of his cigarette and said, "Comrade police, just tell me whether this bitch should be beaten or not." "This." The police frowned and said helplessly, "Wang Yifu, I understand how you feel now, but beating people is wrong after all. I think it's best for you two to have a face-to-face talk. If you can still live together, then start over. If you feel you can't live together anymore, then break up amicably. Anyway, hitting people is definitely not okay." Chapter 23. Yes, at the adulterer's house. The police actually have no good way to deal with such situations. Because cheating is not within their job scope. Let alone Bai Jing and 3 men. Even if she was with 3 men every day, that was her private matter. At most, it was that her private life was immoral and she had no morals. But beating someone is different. Beating people is definitely within the scope of police duties. So, they couldn't stop Bai Jing from cheating, but they could stop Wang Yifu from beating people. Therefore, in the subsequent conversation, the police simply emphasized to Wang Yifu many times that he was not allowed to hit anyone. Wang Yifu also realized that the police didn't care whether Bai Jing had cheated or was at fault. They only asked him not to hit anyone. As for how to solve their problems, they don't care at all. In short, as long as he doesn't do anything anymore, you can solve the problem however you want. So, what could he expect from such a mediation? Please rest assured, police officer. I have deeply realized my mistake. I promise that I will never be so impulsive again. After the police's remarks that hitting people is not allowed, Wang Yifu seemed to be persuaded and conducted a deep self-examination. That's right. The policeman said, no matter what happened, beating people is definitely wrong. Besides, beating people is not the solution to the problem. In the end, we still have to solve it through communication. Why bother? Yes, yes, yes. Wang Yifu nodded continuously. Seeing that Wang Yifu had indeed realized his mistake, the police did not make things difficult for him and continued. Okay, this is your family conflict after all, I won't make it difficult for you. Since you have realized your mistake and repented, then get out. Remember, don't hit anyone again, even your wife. Otherwise, next time you come in, it won't be easy to get out. Understood. Wang Yifu nodded quickly and assured, police comrade, don't worry, I will definitely not hit anyone again. After all, this is not the solution to the problem. Right, the policeman agreed. You are right to think so. Beating someone won't solve any problems. You still need to have a good talk with your wife calmly. Now, let's go. Don't hit them again. Don't worry, I won't do it. Finally, after waving goodbye to the police, Wang Yifu turned around and left the police station. However, as he turned around, the expression on his face suddenly became gloomy again. Obviously, the police didn't really persuade him. More than 10 minutes later, Wang Yifu returned home. Looking at the mess on the floor of the house, which was exactly the same as last night, and seeing that Bai Jing and Wang Shanshan were not at home either, the anger in his heart suddenly flared up again. This bitch wasn't at home last night. She must have gone to live with some adulterer. Even with my daughter. Damn it, don't let me catch you. If I catch you, I will beat you to death. The anger value soared to 100, and Wang Yifu, who was furious, took out his mobile phone and made a call. At the same time, at Cao Kun's residence, Cao Kun, Bai Jing and Wang Shanshan were having breakfast together in harmony. The three of them consciously did not mention the fight between Wang Shanshan's family. However, Cao Kun felt that this breakfast was much more difficult to eat than the previous ones. Because he was trying hard to hold back his laughter. After a night of fermentation, the injuries of Bai Jing and Wang Shanshan were more obvious. Especially Bai Jing, her whole face looked like it had fermented, she had gained a lot of weight, and her eyes were so swollen that only a slit was left. The corners of his mouth became red and swollen, and his lower lip became at least twice as thick. He could even only eat in small bites. Wang Shanshan is better off than Bai Jing. One of her eyes is fine, but the other eye is so swollen that only a slit is left. Looking at these two pig-headed guys, you can't even describe how uncomfortable Cao Kun felt. Moreover, not only did he have to endure it, but he also had to pretend to be distressed, which made it even more uncomfortable. Aunt Bai, Shanshan, how about I take you two to the hospital for a checkup later? My Uncle Wang was too cruel. When Bai Jing heard what Cao Kun said, she was so angry that she trembled all over. This lunatic, it's bad enough that he beat her so cruelly, but he also beat his daughter so cruelly. Does he have any humanity at all? Even Cao Kun, an outsider, thought he was ruthless. What a beast! Look at the child, half of his face is swollen, as if a steamed bun was stuffed in it. No need. Bai Jing forced a smile and said, it's just some redness and swelling, no dizziness or vomiting, there's no need to go to the hospital. Wang Shanshan nodded quickly, yes, there is no need to go to the hospital. Why waste that money? Just rest for a few days and you will be fine. It sounds like Bai Jing and Wang Shanshan are quite frugal and live a good life. But in fact, the two were just worried that they would be seen in their current state by their acquaintances and become a laughing stock. After all, both Bai Jing and Wang Shanshan are people who care about face. Especially since Wang Shanshan had been the school belle of Shire County No. 1 middle school for 3 years. If someone familiar saw her like this, it would be more painful than stopping halfway through having sex with her. Therefore, the two of them would definitely not go out if they can avoid it. Cao Kun wanted to say something else when suddenly, a phone call came in. It's Bai Jing's cell phone. Bai Jing took a glance and her face darkened. Because it was Wang Yifu who called. She didn't want to answer the call at first, but after thinking about it, she thought it might be Wang Yifu's apology call, so she finally answered it. Bai Jing put the phone on speakerphone while eating and said unhappily, "What are you calling for?" Wang Yifu's angry voice suddenly rang out on the phone. Bai Jing, you slut, did you spend the night at your lover's house? You slut, why are you so slutty? You can't be idle for even a minute. Am I kidding? Did you bring Shanshan with you? Do you want to die? Bai Jing thought it was an apology call from Wang Yifu. After all, the beating last night happened inexplicably. She thought that after this night, Wang Yifu realized his mistake and called to apologize. Unexpectedly, Wang Yifu not only did not apologize, but scolded her even more harshly, even to the point of threatening to kill her. There's no way to get through. No matter who comes, this life will be unbearable. Even a clay man would be furious, let alone Bai Jing, who had been beaten up for no reason. Bai Jing grabbed the phone and said harshly, "Yes, you guessed it right. I am at my adulterer's house. You don't know how fierce he was last night. I was so happy. He is 100 times, 10,000 times more powerful than you. It's all because of you. A useless man deserves to be cuckolded." Bai Jing's words made Wang Yifu on the opposite side completely explode. Bai Jing! Damn it, you are now. Suddenly, before Wang Yifu could finish speaking, Bai Jing hung up the phone and blocked and deleted him. Not only phone calls, but also WeChat and other messages were all blocked and deleted. On the side, Wang Shanshan watched this scene, pouted her lips, and cried, "Mom, what happened to my dad? What's wrong? He's just mad. Your dad is a complete mad dog now. Don't worry about it. Here, give me your phone. I'll help you block this mad dog so that he won't scare you." Chapter 24, adding fuel to the fire. Because of Wang Yifu's phone call, the originally harmonious breakfast ended in a hasty manner. Bai Jing chose to go back to the bedroom to continue resting and catching up on sleep, while Wang Shanshan chose to stay in the living room, watching TV with Cao Kun and chatting with him. In fact, I still don't know what happened. I just feel that this conflict happened out of nowhere. Everything was fine before, but it suddenly turned out like this. On the sofa in the living room, Wang Shanshan leaned next to Cao Kun, her voice choked and her eyes red. Looking at Wang Shanshan's sad look at this moment, Cao Kun felt so happy in his heart. In his previous life, Cao Kun was framed and sent to prison by Wang Shanshan's family of 3. He dreamed of destroying their entire family. In fact, he has been waiting for this scene for 10 years. Although there is still a long way to go before Wang Shanshan's family is broken up, he can already see hope. Cao Kun took out a tissue and handed it to Wang Shanshan, whispering, "Shanshan, don't cry. How about I help you go see your uncle?" Hearing Cao Kun say this, Wang Shanshan stopped wiping her tears and shook her head. No, if you go, my dad will definitely know that Mom and I are here with you. If he comes looking for us, you just heard what he said on the phone. I'm really afraid that he will beat Mom up, so you must not go looking for him." Cao Kun waved his hand. "Shanshan, don't worry, your father has never been to my place, he will definitely not be able to find this place." Wang Shanshan was stunned for a moment. That is true. Neither her father nor her mother knew Cao Kun's address. Among the 3 members of her family, she was the only one who knew it. Besides, Cao Kun continued, "I think my physical fitness is not to be underestimated. Even if your father really comes, he won't be able to touch you two with me here." As he spoke, Cao Kun bent his arms and made a movement to show off his biceps. After completing this action, Cao Kun smiled and continued. "Besides, Shanshan, he is your father after all. No matter what happened between him and your mother, this will never change. Also, you said you still don't know what happened between your father and your mother. Have you ever thought about what if your mother made a mistake? What if the problem lies with your mother, and you help her beat your father? Have you ever thought about how disappointed and upset he would be?" As soon as Cao Kun said this, Wang Shanshan's brows immediately frowned. She looked straight into Cao Kun's eyes and hesitated. I really didn't think it was a problem on my mother's side." "That's it." Cao Kun said, "You don't even know who has the problem now. You can't be so blindly partial. Your mother loves you, so your father doesn't love you. Your mother is with you now, at least. But your father is all alone. Don't you think he is pitiful?" After hearing what Cao Kun said, Wang Shanshan could no longer remain calm. Tears welled up in her eyes again and she begged, "Cao Kun, then go see my dad. Now I really feel that I went too far last night. I actually hit him. He must be very disappointed in me now." Cao Kun made a calming gesture, wiped the tears from Wang Shanshan's face, and said, "Don't worry, I will definitely take good care of your uncle, you just need to take good care of your aunt. Let's work hard together and try to get uncle and aunt back together. Hearing Cao Kun say this, Wang Shanshan was even more moved. Suddenly, she hugged Cao Kun's neck and kissed him. Boo tilder tilder. After a solid and passionate kiss, Wang Shanshan let go of Cao Kun and said shyly, Cao Kun, thank you for helping me so much. If it weren't for you, I really don't know what to do. Cao Kun stared at Wang Shanshan blankly, then suddenly grinned and said, with your kiss, everything is worth it. Wait for my good news. I'm leaving now. After saying that, Cao Kun left home excitedly as if he had taken stimulants. However, as the door closed, the excited expression on his face disappeared in an instant. If it was in the previous life, if Wang Shanshan had given him a kiss like this, Cao Kun would have given him his heart. But now, not only was there no ripple in his heart, he even wanted to laugh. Because he has seen what kind of person Wang Shanshan is and it is impossible for him to be deceived by her again. This kiss has no meaning to Wang Shanshan. It is just a sweet treat for him to continue to be a bootlicker. 1 o'clock in the afternoon. In the garden community, Cao Kun came downstairs to Wang Shanshan's house carrying 2 bottles of Moutai and some cooked food. He looked up first, then walked in. Not long after, Cao Kun arrived at Wang Shanshan's house and knocked on the door. After waiting for a few seconds, the door was opened with a whoosh, and cursing voices came out. Bai Jing, you maligo. Wang Yifu, with an angry look on his face as if he was about to kill someone, was stunned when he saw that it was Cao Kun standing outside the door. Xiao Kun? Why are you here? In front of outsiders, Wang Yifu still had to save some face. He quickly straightened his clothes and smiled. However, it would be better if he didn't laugh, because once he laughed, Cao Kun would also want to laugh. It's so miserable. His face was covered with bloodstains, as if he had been scratched by a cat. At a glance, there were at least 20 or 30 of them, almost covering the entire face. Well, Shanshan is not here because of something. You can come see her another day. Wang Yifu also knew that his image was not good at the moment, so he said a few simple words and reached out to close the door. However, before he could close the door, Cao Kun stretched out his hand to block it. Facing Wang Yifu's puzzled expression, Cao Kun smiled and raised the 2 bottles of Moutai and cooked food in his hands. Uncle Wang, Shanshan asked me to come and accompany you. Wang Yifu was stunned and paused for 2 seconds without saying anything. Finally, he let Cao Kun come in. Looking at the mess and cigarette butts on the floor in the living room, Cao Kun didn't care. He cleaned up a small clean space, put the things on the smashed coffee table, and then looked at Wang Yifu. Wang Yifu lit a cigarette, took a deep puff, then took out 2 small wine glasses from the cabinet and sat opposite Cao Kun. Wang Yifu said in a low voice, where are Shanshan and her mother with you? No. Cao Kun shook his head as he unscrewed a bottle of Moutai and poured it. Shanshan called me and told me roughly what happened. She asked me to come and see you. Seeing that Cao Kun's eyes were sincere and he didn't look like he was lying at all, Wang Yifu's brows suddenly furrowed. Are they really not with you? Really not. Cao Kun said sincerely, Shanshan called me and I asked her where she was. She didn't tell me, but only said she was with a friend of Aunt Bai. Also, uncle, you don't have to worry. Shanshan and Aunt Bai are doing fine there, because I heard Aunt Bai's laughter on the phone at the time, and there was a male voice with her. The 2 of them were laughing and joking at the time, so you don't have to worry about them. Chapter 25 The Yellow Hair Who Will Suffer. Cao Kun's words seemed to be intended to reassure Wang Yifu, but in fact, they were adding fuel to the fire. Because, as the instigator of all this, and since Wang Shanshan and Bai Jing lived in his house, he knew clearly everything that happened between the 3 of them. Didn't he Wang Yifu suspect that Bai Jing took Wang Shanshan to her adulteress' house to spend the night? If this were to become true, would he be so furious that he would lose his mind? Of course. Because, for someone as chauvinistic and face-conscious as Wang Yifu, once he encounters such a thing, it is very easy for him to get carried away and lose his rationality. Just like an honest person, once an honest person takes action, the situation is often more serious. Based on Cao Kun's experience of having spent 10 years in prison, once a person is blinded by anger, he or she is very easy to be instigated. He has done this kind of thing many times in prison, and it has always worked. Now, he is simply returning to his old ways. As expected. Cao Kun's words accurately touched Wang Yifu's nerves. Especially when Wang Yifu heard that Bai Jing was actually fighting and playing with her male friend and having a lot of fun, he even wanted to kill her. I'm sulking at home, and you're living happily with your adulterer. Bai Jing, what the hell, you have completely stopped pretending and started to openly cuckold me. Okay. Just wait, when I find you adulterous couple, I will beat you to death. Cao Kun, who was sitting opposite Wang Yifu, looked at the bulging blue veins on Wang Yifu's forehead and his clenched fists, and the corners of his mouth raised slightly. He knew that he had successfully provoked Wang Yifu's anger. In the following time, Cao Kun played the role of a younger generation accompanying his elder, occasionally interspersed with a few provocative words, which made Wang Yifu's veins throb. Finally, the time came to 7 o'clock in the evening. The 2 bottles of Moutai had been finished long ago, and the 2 of them drank 4 boxes of beer, and the cigarette butts were all over the floor. If it were an ordinary person, he would have been drunk long ago, but Cao Kun and Wang Yifu were still okay. Cao Kun's body became much stronger due to practicing the 72-style rice bucket, and his alcohol tolerance also increased. As for Wang Yifu, he simply has a good alcohol tolerance. In addition, Cao Kun knew how much Wang Yifu could drink, so he had been controlling the pace of their drinking and would not let Wang Yifu get drunk no matter what. Because once Wang Yifu gets drunk, it will affect his next plan. This state is just right now, I am about 60% drunk, I am easily impulsive and very bold. Cao Kun sipped his beer, looked at Wang Yifu and said, Uncle, I don't understand. Haven't you and Aunt Bai always had a good relationship? How come you have a conflict, and it's such a big one? Wang Yifu is now sincerely satisfied with this junior who has been drinking with him for most of the day. Whether it's drinking or talking, every aspect is taken into consideration. More importantly, he also understands the suffering of men. Cao Kun's remarks just now about how being a man has a hard time and how many men have to be sons or grandsons outside in order to support their families almost made Wang Yifu grab his hand and call him a confidant. Look. As a younger generation, everyone knows how difficult it is for a man to support a family, but what about the woman who has lived with him for more than 10 or nearly 20 years? This Dogecoin Bai Jing really deserves to die. Therefore, in Wang Yifu's heart now, Cao Kun has become his close brother. Faced with the questions from his close brother, Wang Yifu naturally felt that there was nothing he could not answer. He first gulped down 2 mouthfuls of beer, then took a long drag on his cigarette before saying, Why are you having a conflict? Oh, it's all because of that bitch Bai Jing's cheating. You don't know how bitchy she is, this bitch. Hearing this, Cao Kun was stunned. He looked at Wang Yifu in disbelief and said, Uncle Wang, this can't be, are you mistaken? How could my Aunt Bai be such a person? Wang Yifu sneered, took out his cell phone while holding a cigarette, opened the video, and pushed it directly to Cao Kun. Xiao Kun, today I will teach you a truth. There is no woman who is not a slut. Don't believe it, right? Just take a look and you will know. Cao Kun looked at Wang Yifu with doubt, and finally picked up his phone to look at it. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. 40 seconds. Finally, after watching for less than a minute, Cao Kun put down his phone with a shocked expression. Aunt Bai, she actually. Seeing Cao Kun's extremely shocked expression, Wang Yifu sneered and exhaled a puff of cigarette, saying, Didn't you expect that she would be so cheap and slutty, and actually be with 3 men? Cao Kun looked at Wang Yifu in a daze and nodded. So, this is what I want to teach you. Women are all cheap. Never be too nice to them. Do you understand? Cao Kun still nodded blankly. He looked a little dazed and said, Uncle Wang, I seem to know that guy with short yellow hair. In the video, there are 3 thugs in total, and their hairstyles are different. One of the thugs has a hairstyle that is close to a flat head and is dyed yellow. Hearing Cao Kun's words, Wang Yifu frowned immediately. Do you know him? Right. Cao Kun nodded affirmatively. When I was in school before, near the school gate, this guy asked me about Shanshan and wanted to be her boyfriend. Uncle Wang, you know that I have been pursuing Shanshan. This guy is obviously not a good person, so I certainly couldn't tell him. In fact, I almost had a fight with him at the school gate because of this. So, I specifically asked about this yellow-haired guy and found out his address, but later on, nothing came of it. I didn't expect that he and Aunt Bai. At this point, Cao Kun's expression changed, and he said worriedly, Uncle Wang, my Aunt Bai will not take Shanshan to live with this yellow-haired man, right? If so, Shanshan will be in danger. This yellow-haired man has been eyeing her for a long time. Will he take advantage of the opportunity to rape Shanshan? Although Wang Shanshan and Bai Jing teamed up to beat Wang Yifu yesterday. However, this hatred had long been resolved by Cao Kun. Don't forget, Cao Kun came here today under the banner of Wang Shanshan. He regretted what Wang Shanshan had said so much that he wanted to kneel down in front of Wang Yifu and admit his mistake. Therefore, to Wang Yifu, Wang Shanshan is still his good daughter, and he has already forgiven her in his heart. Now, hearing what Cao Kun said, Wang Yifu's expression instantly became solemn. It's fine that my wife was played by this yellow-haired guy. If his daughter is played by this yellow-haired guy again, then there is really no need for him to live. Where is it? Where is this yellow-haired guy's home? Wang Yifu asked fiercely. Hongfu community. I only know that he lives in this community, but I don't know which building he lives in. Hearing this, Wang Yifu looked gloomy and said nothing. He picked up a bottle of wine and went out. Looking at Wang Yifu's departing back, Cao Kun's mouth corners finally rose. What he said about seeing the yellow-haired guy at the school gate and that the yellow-haired guy had been eyeing Wang Shanshan for a long time were all made-up stories. However, he did not lie about one thing. That is, this yellow-haired guy does live in Hongfu community. The reason why Cao Kun knew this was because, in his previous life, the gangster he accidentally killed was this yellow-haired guy. After all, it was the first time he killed someone, and Cao Kun had such a deep impression of his situation that he would never forget it in his entire life. As for the other two thugs, I have no impression of them anymore.